The line at gate 42 stretches like a coiled snake, tense and impatient. Naomi Carter adjusts her baby's blanket, bouncing little Ava gently against her chest as the boarding announcement echoes overhead. Families with small children may now board. Relief flickers across her face. After hours of waiting, she's finally going home. She steps forward carefully, trying not to bump the stroller folded under her arm. The flight attendant at the gate scans her ticket without looking up. "Row 14C, ma'am. Move along." Naomi smiles politely, whispering a soft thank you. No reply. Inside the narrow aisle, the air is thick with recycled air and tired sighs. Passengers shuffle in slow motion, dragging bags, muttering about delays. Naomi lifts her carry-on into the overhead bin with one hand, careful not to wake Ava. Her movements are calm, deliberate. But behind her, a sharp voice cuts through the noise. "Excuse me!" The tone snaps like a whip. Naomi turns. A blonde flight attendant stands there, arms crossed, eyes narrowed at the stroller she's struggling to fold. The name tag glints. Chloe. "You can't leave that there," Chloe snaps, pointing to the side wall. "That's blocking the aisle." "I'm sorry," Naomi says quietly. "I'll move it in just a second. Ma'am, now please, we're on a tight schedule." Naomi nods, trying not to meet her eyes. She pulls the stroller closer, rocking Ava gently with one arm while maneuvering it with the other. Chloe exhales loudly, a sound halfway between a sigh and a growl. Passengers glance over, sensing tension. Naomi feels the heat of their stares, that familiar, invisible pressure that says, "Don't make a scene." She doesn't. She just keeps moving, folding, adjusting, breathing. When she finally sits down, baby asleep, she exhales in relief. The seatbelt clicks softly. Outside, the sun glows over the tarmac, but peace lasts only seconds. "Ma'am, you'll need to move that diaper bag under the seat." Naomi blinks. "It already is." Chloe leans closer, her perfume sharp. "Not properly. Regulations require clear space under the seat in front of you." Naomi glances down. The bag is neatly tucked, nowhere near the aisle. "It's fine, I promise," she says gently. "Excuse me?" Naomi hesitates. "I just mean, it's secure." Chloe's lips tighten. "Do not argue with crew instructions." Heads turn again. Naomi swallows hard and slides the bag a few inches farther, though it doesn't move much. "Better?" Chloe gives a satisfied nod and walks off, muttering something Naomi can't quite hear. But a man in the aisle seat behind her does. He frowns. In row 12A, 2 seats ahead, a distinguished man watches silently. Silver hair, dark suit, no tie. His name is Richard Grant, though no one here knows it. The owner of SkyConnect Airlines. He's traveling incognito, auditing service quality without notice. Usually, he finds professionalism, smiles, courtesy, efficiency. Today, he finds something colder. Chloe returns to the galley, whispering to another attendant. "She's already being difficult," she says. "You know how some people are." The other attendant doesn't reply. She glances uneasily toward the cabin. "Just keep it professional, Chloe," Chloe scoffs. "Professional? I'm the only one holding this flight together." Back in her seat, Naomi hums softly to Ava, a lullaby her grandmother used to sing. She feels eyes on her, some sympathetic, some judgmental. It's always the same. She's used to being noticed for the wrong reasons. A soft voice interrupts her thoughts. "Would you like some help, ma'am?" It's the man behind her, the same one who overheard Chloe earlier. He looks kind. Business suit, gentle eyes. "No, thank you," Naomi whispers. "We're okay." He nods but doesn't look away. "That was uncalled for," he says under his breath. "You did nothing wrong." Naomi forces a small smile. "It's fine. I just want to get home." From the intercom, the captain's voice booms. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard SkyConnect Flight 482 to Atlanta. Please fasten your seatbelts." Chloe strides down the aisle again, checking seatbelts with exaggerated movements. When she reaches Naomi's row, her gaze flickers to the baby. "That blanket's too thick. It's a safety concern." Naomi looks down, puzzled. "It's just cotton. She gets cold easily." Chloe doesn't budge. Rules are rules. She tugs the edge of the blanket sharply, adjusting it herself. Ava stirs, whimpering. "Please don't. She'll wake up." Chloe ignores her. Next time, follow basic instructions. Something inside Naomi twists. Anger, humiliation, helplessness. But she swallows it, whispering softly, "Yes, ma'am." The cabin falls into uneasy silence. Richard Grant glances toward the cockpit, noting the flight attendant's tone, the passenger's discomfort. He pulls out his tablet, opening the internal employee portal, marking down her badge number. Not yet. He'll wait. Observe. Minutes pass. The plane begins taxiing. Ava starts to cry, the sound small but piercing. Naomi rocks her gently. Chloe's eyes flick back. You need to keep her quiet, she snaps. Naomi blinks. I'm trying. Try harder, Chloe says, voice low but sharp. From 2 rows ahead, Richard's hand clenches on the armrest. The engines roar as the plane lifts off the runway, climbing through clouds. At 10,000 feet, the seatbelt sign dings off. Passengers relax, most of them. Naomi doesn't. Her heart beats fast. Every breath feels shallow. Chloe appears again, tray in hand. Drink service? Naomi shakes her head. No thank you. Chloe smirks. Suit yourself. As she leans in to hand coffee to another passenger, her elbow brushes Naomi's shoulder harder than necessary. The cup wobbles but doesn't spill. Naomi flinches. Chloe doesn't apologize. In row 12A, Richard Grant watches every detail. His calm expression hides a storm. He's seen customer complaints before, but never like this, never so personal. He presses the call attendant button beside him. Chloe turns, her voice suddenly syrupy. Yes, sir? Could you send your supervisor to speak with me after takeoff? He asks calmly. Chloe's smile tightens. I'm the lead flight attendant today, sir. Everything all right? His gaze is steady. We'll discuss it later. Chloe hesitates, then nods and walks away, her confidence faltering just slightly. Naomi sits quietly, humming to her baby again. The engines hum beneath her, steady and indifferent. She doesn't know it yet, but somewhere behind her, power has already shifted. Richard Grant opens a note on his tablet and types 4 words. Observe, document, intervene discreetly. Outside, the clouds part, sunlight pouring through the window, soft, bright, and sharp, like justice waiting for its turn. The flight levels out above the clouds, the light outside shifting from blinding white to soft gold. The cabin settles into uneasy quiet. Luggage rattles faintly in the bins overhead. Naomi exhales, trying to calm her heart. Ava finally drifts back to sleep, her tiny chest rising and falling against her mother's shoulder. She thinks, just 2 hours to Atlanta. 2 hours and I'll be home. Across the aisle, a businessman reclines his seat without warning, nearly knocking Naomi's juice cup from her tray. She steadies it with one hand. Chloe passes by again, her heels clicking like punctuation marks. Please keep your seat upright during beverage service, she says, not to the businessman, but to Naomi. Naomi looks up, confused. It wasn't my seat, ma'am, it was… I said upright, Chloe repeats sharply, her voice slicing through the calm. The businessman glances up, embarrassed. It was me, actually. Chloe ignores him completely. Rules apply to everyone, ma'am. Naomi blinks. I understand. She pushes her seat forward even though it's already upright. Her cheeks flush. The businessman frowns at Chloe, but the flight attendant has already moved on, her polished shoes disappearing behind the galley curtain. The man leans over. Don't take it personally, he whispers. Some of them like to act like they run the sky. Naomi smiles faintly, a tired reflex. I've dealt with worse, but in truth she hasn't. At least not like this. Not when her daughter is watching, even in sleep. From row 12A, Richard Grant observes quietly. His tablet rests on the tray table, untouched. He's taking mental notes, the clipped tone, the dismissive gestures, the absence of basic courtesy. He's seen rude staff before, but there's something different here, something targeted. Chloe reappears a few minutes later with a trash bag, her movements mechanical. She pauses by Naomi again. Any garbage? Naomi holds up an empty cup. Yes, thank you. Chloe hesitates, eyes narrowing. That's baby formula, isn't it? Naomi nods. Yes. You can't bring outside liquids like that. FAA policy. Naomi blinks, startled. It's infant formula, ma'am. I went through security. They checked it. Chloe's smile doesn't reach her eyes. I'll have to verify that. She drops the cup into the bag as if it's toxic waste and walks off. The businessman across the aisle mutters, unbelievable. Naomi sits back, shoulders tight. She knows how this goes, how easily her calm can be twisted into defiance, how quickly a misunderstanding can become a threat. So she stays quiet, always quiet. 10 rows ahead, a flight attendant with dark hair whispers something to Chloe as she passes. Hey, maybe ease up on that, mom. People are watching. Chloe's jaw tightens. People always watch. They just don't understand what it's like dealing with those passengers. Always drama. The other attendant hesitates. Still, she hasn't done anything. Chloe waves her off. I've been doing this for 12 years. I can spot trouble before it starts. Her words float just loud enough for passengers in the galley to hear. Richard Grant hears them too. He types a single line in his notes. Prejudice disguised as professionalism. He scrolls through the company's internal files on Chloe Reynolds. Awards for punctuality. No formal complaints. Nothing. Until now. Back in row 14C, Naomi adjusts Ava's blanket again. The baby stirs, letting out a soft cry. Naomi hums gently, swaying in her seat. The melody is low and soothing, almost lost beneath the drone of engines. Then Chloe returns, frown deepening. Ma'am, I'll have to ask you to keep the baby quiet. Other passengers are trying to rest. Naomi blinks. I'm doing my best. Then do better, Chloe snaps. The businessman beside them clears his throat. Excuse me, but she's being completely reasonable. Chloe's eyes flash. Sir, please mind your own seat. The businessman lifts his hands in surrender. Just saying, she's not doing anything wrong. Chloe leans closer to Naomi, her voice low but dripping venom. If you can't control your child, I'll have to speak to the captain about removing you upon landing. Naomi's breath catches. What? You can't? Safety protocols, Chloe cuts in. Passengers who can't maintain order disrupt the cabin environment. Ava whimpers again, as if feeling her mother's panic. Naomi rocks her, heart pounding, the humiliation heavy in her chest. She looks around for support, but most passengers avert their eyes. It's easier not to get involved. From row 12A, Richard's gaze hardens. He leans forward, signaling discreetly to the brunette flight attendant, the one who had warned Chloe earlier. When she approaches, he lowers his voice. What's that flight attendant's name? Chloe Reynolds, sir. He nods once. Thank you. The attendant pauses. You seem concerned? I am, Richard says evenly. And so should you be. She steps back, uncertain, but she can feel the weight of authority in his voice. Something about him feels commanding, though she doesn't yet know why. At the back of the cabin, Chloe vents to another crew member. They always pull the same thing, act polite until someone calls them out, then suddenly they're victims. Watch, she'll probably post about this online before we land. The words sting even as they're whispered. Naomi doesn't hear them, but she feels their shadow. She stares out the window, past the bright clouds, past the endless blue. Her reflection looks small against the glass, exhausted, invisible. She whispers to Ava, Almost home, baby. Just hang on. Richard's hand tightens around the armrest again. He takes a slow breath. Years of running an airline taught him when to act, and when to let people reveal themselves completely. Chloe's arrogance is doing the work for him. Over the intercom, the captain announces mild turbulence ahead. Please return to your seats and fasten your seatbelts. Chloe hurries down the aisle, checking rows. When she reaches Naomi's seat, she notices the seatbelt strap resting gently across the baby's blanket. You can't buckle the infant that way, she says. Naomi frowns. It's loose enough, she's fine. Don't argue with me. Chloe grabs the strap and jerks it free, startling Ava awake. The baby cries out, terrified. Naomi gasps. Please, stop, she's scared. Chloe's patience snaps. If you can't handle basic safety, maybe you shouldn't fly. Passengers turn, murmuring. The businessman's voice rises. Hey, that's enough! But Chloe's temper flares hotter than reason. She gestures toward Naomi with a trembling hand, her voice sharp as glass. Don't tell me how to do my job! The baby's cries fill the cabin. Naomi's face burns with humiliation, eyes glistening. She whispers, Please, just let me calm her. Chloe inhales, jaw tight, a storm gathering behind her eyes. Richard Grant sets his tablet down slowly. The moment is building. He can feel it, like turbulence before lightning. No one knows it yet, but the next 5 minutes will change every life on this plane. The cabin lights dim slightly as the plane enters a stretch of steady air. Outside, the clouds glow faintly orange, sunlight filtering through the horizon. Inside, tension still hums beneath the quiet like static. Naomi wipes her eyes, gently bouncing Ava, whose soft sobs are finally fading. The hum of the engines feels louder than before, every vibration echoing the pounding in her chest. A few rows ahead, Chloe stands in the galley, her polished hands gripping the counter edge. Her reflection in the metal coffee pot looks distorted, her smile brittle. The brunette attendant, Marissa, her name tag reads, approaches cautiously. "You need to take a breather," she says softly. "That mom's shaken up and the passengers are—" Chloe turns sharply. "Passengers are always shaken up. They'll forget by the time we land." She checks her makeup in the reflection, voice low, bitter. "You can't let them walk over you. That woman was challenging my authority." Marissa frowns. "She was calming her baby, Chloe. You snapped at her." "She was defensive," Chloe hisses. "Always the same story. They act polite until you hold them accountable." Her eyes flick toward the curtain separating first class. "You've seen it. They think rules don't apply to them." Marissa's face tightens. "I think she was just tired and scared." "Spare me the sympathy." Chloe's tone sharpens, cutting through the hum of the galley. "People like her always play the victim when they're called out. Maybe if she spent less time feeling sorry for herself and more time following instructions, we wouldn't have problems." Marissa steps back, disgust flickering in her eyes. "You can't talk about passengers like that." Chloe smiles coldly. "Watch me." What neither of them notices is the man standing just outside the galley curtain. Richard Grant, still in his quiet disguise, a simple jacket, no tie, traveler among travelers. He's been walking the aisles under the pretense of stretching his legs, but he pauses now, hearing every word. The contempt in Chloe's voice chills him. Not just unprofessionalism, something uglier. He stays silent, stepping back before she notices him. When he returns to his seat, he types quickly on his tablet. Confirmed pattern of verbal bias. Observe further before intervention. In row 14, Naomi shifts in her seat, glancing toward the aisle where the voices faded. She doesn't hear the words, but she feels the tone. The chill. The judgment that never has to be spoken aloud to be understood. She strokes Ava's tiny curls, whispering softly, "Shh, it's okay, baby. Mommy's got you." The businessman across from her, whose name she's learned is Peter, leans forward. "You handled that better than most people would have." Naomi smiles weakly. "It's not the first time. Just want to make it the last." He nods slowly. "I'm recording, you know. Everything since the seatbelt thing." Naomi blinks, surprised. "You are?" "Someone has to," Peter says quietly, "in case they twist it later." Naomi's breath catches. "Thank you." He gives her a reassuring nod. If she tries anything else, she'll have to answer for it. Ava stirs, eyes fluttering open, calm now. Naomi adjusts the blanket gently. Around them, most passengers are pretending to read or watch movies, but Naomi can feel their silence pressing in, sympathy wrapped in cowardice. Then Chloe returns. Her smile is back, the customer service mask, too bright to be real. "Would anyone like a snack box or beverage?" Her eyes sweep the row and land on Naomi again. "Ma'am, can I offer you something? Maybe water?" The tone is honeyed, false, a performance for the audience. Naomi shakes her head politely. "No thank you." "You sure?" Chloe presses. "I wouldn't want you to say you weren't offered service later." Naomi's jaw tightens. "I'm fine." Chloe shrugs, that practiced smirk tugging at the corner of her lips. "Suit yourself." She moves on, but not before whispering just loud enough for Naomi to hear. "People like you never appreciate good service anyway." The words drop like stones. Peter's head snaps up. "Excuse me?" he says sharply. "Did you just—" But Chloe's already halfway down the aisle, pretending not to hear. Naomi stares at the seat back in front of her, heart pounding. Every fiber of her wants to stand to speak, but Ava's small hand curls around her finger, anchoring her. She swallows hard. "Not now," she murmurs. "Not yet." From row 12A, Richard watches, his face unreadable. He notes the passenger with the phone, Peter, and gives a subtle nod of approval. Documentation, he thinks, always documentation. He opens his email draft to the airline's HR director. Subject, Incident Observation, Flight 482. He doesn't hit send. Not yet. The full truth always reveals itself if you wait long enough. The captain's voice breaks over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be experiencing some minor turbulence shortly. Please remain seated." The plane jolts softly, then steadies. Chloe grips the galley counter, annoyed. "Perfect," she mutters. "Just what I needed." Marissa looks at her. "You're spiraling, Chloe. Take a break. I'll handle the cabin." But Chloe shakes her head. "No, she'll twist the story if I don't stay visible." "Visible?" Marissa repeats incredulously. You mean intimidating? Chloe spins around, voice low but venomous. You've seen her type, always crying racism when things don't go their way. Marissa stiffens. Enough. Don't tell me how to run my cabin, Chloe snaps. You're just jealous I've got authority. Marissa's face hardens. Authority doesn't mean cruelty. Chloe scoffs and pushes past her, marching back toward the aisle. As she passes row 12, Richard's gaze locks with hers. Calm, steady, piercing. For the first time all flight, she hesitates. Something about the man unsettles her. Too composed, too observant. But arrogance wins. She forces a smile. Everything all right here, sir? Richard nods politely. For now. She moves on, unsettled, her confidence cracking just slightly. At row 14, Chloe stops again, checking Naomi's seatbelt. Still secure? She asks, voice dripping condescension. Naomi meets her eyes this time. Yes, still secure. A flicker of something, challenge, quiet defiance, passes between them. Chloe straightens, offended by the very idea of being met as an equal. Good, she says sharply. Let's keep it that way. She walks off, but this time whispers ripple through the cabin, disapproving murmurs. The tide of silence is shifting. Richard Grant closes his tablet and leans back, watching the scene. The flight has become a slow unraveling, arrogance pulling at its own threads. He knows it's only a matter of time before it snaps completely. He glances at the seat beside him where an elderly woman dozes peacefully, unaware that a quiet storm is brewing a few rows behind her. Justice, he thinks, is often invisible at first, until it stands up and speaks. He looks out the window at the horizon ahead, fiery red fading into gold. In the reflection, his eyes are calm but his jaw is set. Tonight, truth will find its wings. The cabin lights glow soft amber as evening deepens over the clouds. The aircraft hums smoothly, its engines a constant lullaby to most of the passengers. But row 14 is anything but peaceful. Ava has begun to stir again, her small lips trembling before a wail escapes her. Naomi feels the first sob vibrate against her chest. She rocks gently, murmuring, "It's okay, sweetheart. Mommy's here." Her voice is calm, measured, the way only a mother who has soothed 1,000 cries can sound. Yet she can feel the anxiety tightening in her chest, not because of the baby, but because she knows what comes next. 3 rows ahead, Chloe looks up from pouring coffee. The sound of the baby's cries slices through her patience like static. Her nostrils flare. Unbelievable, she mutters under her breath. She forces a smile for the man she's serving, sets his cup down, and turns sharply toward the aisle. Marissa catches her wrist. Don't, she says quietly. She's not doing anything wrong. Chloe's eyes are cold. She's disturbing my cabin. Your cabin? Marissa repeats softly. They're human beings, not your subjects. Chloe jerks her hand free. Passengers expect order. She's breaking that. She's calming a baby, Marissa insists. Then she can calm her somewhere else. Chloe smooths her uniform and strides down the aisle before Marissa can stop her. Naomi sees her coming and instinctively holds Ava closer. She whispers, "Shh, shh." But Ava's cries grow louder. Tired, frightened, overwhelmed. Naomi presses the call button, hoping maybe someone else, anyone else, will come. Chloe arrives first. "Ma'am," she says, her tone clipped, public. "You need to quiet your child immediately." Naomi's eyes glisten with fatigue. "I'm trying. She's just scared." "Well, she's scaring the rest of the cabin," Chloe snaps. "If you can't manage her, I'll have to ask you to step into the galley until she calms down." Naomi blinks, incredulous. "You want me to stand in the galley with a crying baby? During turbulence?" The baby's wails fill the air again. Chloe lowers her voice, but the venom in it is unmistakable. "If you can't follow instructions, I'll make a report to the captain." Naomi's mouth opens, but no sound comes. The humiliation is instant, hot and choking. She feels eyes on her from every direction. A whisper, a sigh, a turned head. No one intervenes, except Peter. "Hey," he says firmly. "She's doing nothing wrong. Maybe ease off." Chloe turns sharply, her smile returning like a mask. "Sir, this doesn't concern you." "It does when you're bullying a mother and her baby," Peter says. He's standing now, voice calm but firm. "You've crossed a line." Chloe's cheeks flush. "Sit down before I report you for interfering with crew operations." Peter raises his hands, incredulous. "You're kidding me." Naomi looks up, mortified. Please, it's fine, she whispers. Please just let it go. But Chloe isn't done. You need to control your tone, sir, and you, she says, turning to Naomi, need to control your child. Her words crack like a whip. Ava's crying intensifies. Naomi can feel her daughter's heartbeat hammering through the blanket. Please, Naomi says softly. She's a baby. She doesn't understand. Chloe leans closer. Then maybe you shouldn't bring her if you can't handle it. The cabin goes silent. Even the hum of the engine seems to fade under the weight of her words. Peter exhales sharply. That's it. I'm recording this again. He lifts his phone. Chloe's head snaps around. You do not have permission to record me. Peter doesn't lower the phone. Public flight, public interaction. You just threatened a passenger and insulted a mother. Passengers start whispering. Some lift their heads, watching. The older woman in the next row murmurs, "Poor thing." Chloe glances around, realizing she's lost the crowd. But instead of retreating, she doubles down. Everyone, please stay calm. We're experiencing some passenger disturbance. I'll handle it. Richard Grant rises slowly from row 12A. His voice is even, controlled. You'll do nothing of the sort, he says quietly, though not loud enough for everyone to hear. Chloe freezes, startled by his tone. He doesn't say more, not yet. He simply steps back into the shadows, letting her reveal more of herself. Naomi looks at him briefly, unaware of who he is, but she catches something in his gaze. A calm authority, a steady kind of strength that makes her heart slow for the first time in hours. Chloe turns back to Naomi. You're disrupting this flight. If you can't calm her in 30 seconds, I'm alerting the captain to have you removed upon landing. Naomi blinks through tears. Removed? For what? My baby's crying? For disturbing passengers and disobeying instructions. She's not disobeying anything, Peter interrupts. Chloe spins toward him again. Sit down before I call security. Peter mutters, You're unbelievable. The baby's cries grow softer now, hiccuping. Naomi hums softly, her voice trembling but steady enough to bring Ava back toward calm. The small sound cuts through the tension, a mother's melody defying cruelty. Then Chloe does something no one expects. She reaches down and snatches the corner of the blanket Naomi's using. You can't cover her face like that, she says sharply. It's unsafe. Naomi gasps. You're hurting her. I'm helping her breathe properly, Chloe says, yanking the blanket upward. The sudden motion jolts Ava awake again, and the baby screams. The entire cabin inhales at once. Peter steps forward. That's assault, he says flatly. Naomi's face is pale. She pulls Ava close, shielding her from Chloe's hand. Please, she whispers. Stop! But Chloe's temper ignites completely. I've had enough of your attitude. And then it happens. The moment that will end her career. Her palm flashes across Naomi's cheek. The sound, sharp, unforgiving, echoes through the cabin. For a second, there is only silence. Ava's cry is the first sound that returns. Then the murmurs start, low, horrified. Phones rise in shaky hands. Someone gasps. Someone else whispers, Did she just… Naomi's hand touches her face, stunned. She doesn't cry. She just holds Ava tighter, her voice breaking only enough to whisper, You hit me. Chloe's expression falters, just for a heartbeat. Then she straightens, her professional mask snapping back into place. She was being aggressive, she declares. I defended myself. The passengers erupt in disbelief. Peter's voice cuts through the chaos. You're done. You hear me? Done. Chloe opens her mouth, but her words die as Richard Grant steps forward into the aisle. His calm presence stills the noise. Every eye turns to him. He says only 2 words, quiet but final. Sit down. Chloe blinks, confused, but something in his tone roots her to the spot. Richard turns to Naomi. Are you and your child all right? Naomi can barely speak. I think so. He nods once, a promise behind his eyes she can't yet recognize. Outside the window, the sky is darkening. Inside, something else has just begun to burn. Justice, silent for now, has found its witness. The echo of the slap hangs in the air long after Chloe's hand falls back to her side. For one suspended heartbeat, the entire cabin seems frozen. No engine noise, no rustle of bags, only the shrill, wounded cry of baby Ava, splitting through the silence like a siren. Naomi doesn't move. Her mind can't catch up. Her cheek stings, her heart races, but her body stays locked in place, protecting Ava, holding her close. It's the first time in her life someone has hit her in front of so many eyes, and none of them have stepped forward yet. Chloe blinks rapidly, realizing what she's done. Her pulse pounds against her temples. Her fingers twitch, as though she could rewind time, undo the sound of that strike. Then, like every bully cornered by their own temper, she doubles down. "She attacked me," she says suddenly, turning toward the nearest passengers. "You all saw it. She got physical first." Gasps ripple through the cabin. Peter stands immediately, eyes blazing. "That's a lie. You hit her, and everyone here saw it." A middle-aged woman in the opposite aisle adds, "You touched her first. That was completely uncalled for." Chloe's voice rises, brittle and high. "I am the senior flight attendant. You will remain seated." But the authority that used to make people shrink is gone. Dozens of phones are up now, cameras glowing. Someone whispers, "I'm streaming this." Another murmurs, "Oh, she's finished." Naomi's breath shudders out. The shock fades into tears she can no longer hold back. Ava's cries soften as Naomi hums instinctively, rocking her baby even as her own hands tremble. "It's okay, sweetheart. Mommy's here." Richard Grant steps into the aisle. His calm cuts through the chaos. "Enough," he says quietly. His tone is steady, commanding without being loud. "Everyone remains seated. No one touches this passenger again." Chloe turns to him, desperate to regain control. "Sir, please sit down. You're interfering with crew." Richard's eyes meet hers. "If you say one more word, you will regret it before we land." The words are measured, not a shout but a warning from someone who is used to being obeyed. Chloe opens her mouth, closes it again. Something about his voice sends a chill down her spine. The captain's voice crackles through the intercom. "Lead flight attendant, report to the cockpit." Chloe freezes. "Captain, Now, Miss Reynolds," the voice repeats. She glances around the cabin, realizing there is no support left to lean on. Even Marissa stands apart, arms folded, eyes hard. "I'll handle this," Chloe mutters, retreating toward the galley, every step sharper than the last. As she passes Marissa, the younger attendant says quietly, "You crossed the line, Chloe." Chloe doesn't answer. She yanks the curtain closed behind her. The air feels heavier once she's gone. Richard crouches beside Naomi's seat. Up close, his expression softens. "You're safe now," he says. "No one will touch you again." Naomi blinks, still processing his calm authority. "Who are you?" "Just a man who doesn't tolerate injustice," he says. "Can you tell me if you or your baby are hurt?" Naomi shakes her head. "No, just shaken." Peter lowers his phone. "I got everything, from the moment she came down the aisle." "Good," Richard replies. "Keep it secure. Don't post it yet." Naomi looks at him, puzzled. "Why not? Everyone should see what she did." "They will," Richard promises, "but properly, through the right channels. Let them hang themselves with their own protocol first." The plane continues through calm skies, but the tension on board feels like turbulence that hasn't yet hit. Passengers whisper, angry and uneasy. A mother up front wipes her eyes. A businessman mutters that he'll never fly SkyConnect again. In the galley, Chloe stands before the interphone, shaking. The captain's voice is firm. "You struck a passenger?" "She was aggressive, Captain. She grabbed at me." "I'm watching the feed from the cabin camera," he says flatly. "You need to step out of the aisle and let Marissa take over." "But—" "No argument. You'll file a report after we land. For now, stay out of sight." Chloe's throat tightens. "Captain, this could ruin me." "Then you shouldn't have done it." The line clicks dead. She slumps against the counter, trying to steady her breathing. The weight of realization presses on her chest. Passengers recording, crew against her. And that man, the one with the steel in his voice, something about him felt dangerous, powerful. In the cabin, Marissa kneels by Naomi, offering a cool cloth. "I'm so sorry," she whispers. "None of this should have happened." Naomi nods faintly. "Thank you, it's not your fault." Marissa glances toward Richard, uncertain. "Sir, can I get your name for the incident report?" Richard studies her a moment, then gives a slight smile. "You'll have it soon enough." Peter chuckles under his breath. "That's cryptic." Richard straightens, returning to his seat. He pulls out his phone and dials quietly, the call connecting to a private line marked Corporate Security, SkyConnect Headquarters. "It's Grant," he says simply. "Yes, I'm on Flight 482. I need a legal and PR team on standby at the Atlanta gate. There's been an incident involving cabin crew, passenger assault." The voice on the other end goes silent for a beat. Then, "Understood, sir. We'll meet you on arrival." He ends the call before anyone around him can hear more. Naomi closes her eyes, exhaustion rolling through her. Every muscle aches from holding herself together. She feels Peter gently place a blanket over her shoulders. "Try to rest," he says quietly. "You did nothing wrong." Outside, the sunset bleeds into twilight, streaks of violet painting the endless horizon. The plane hums steadily forward, a silver arrow cutting through darkening sky. Chloe remains hidden behind the galley curtain, whispering to herself, rehearsing excuses. She tells herself she was provoked, that passengers will exaggerate, that maybe the company will believe her version. But deep down, under the armor of denial, fear coils tight. Back in row 12A, Richard Grant stares out the window, reflection sharp against the glass. The hum of the engines masks his words, spoken only to himself. "By the time we land, you'll know exactly who you hit, and whose company you just disgraced." The cabin lights dim for the night flight. Somewhere between the clouds and the dark, Justice is quietly buckling its seatbelt, waiting for descent. For the first time since the slap, the plane feels like a sealed chamber. Nobody moves, nobody talks. The silence stretches thin and brittle, ready to snap. The faint hum of the engines fills the void where voices should be, masking the uneasy breaths of 200 people who've just seen something they can't unsee. Naomi sits motionless, eyes unfocused, still holding Ava as if the smallest movement might make the nightmare real again. Her cheek burns where Chloe's hand struck, the heat blooming against the cold air from the overhead vent. She rocks gently, whispering nonsense sounds to calm the baby, though it's really to calm herself. Marissa crouches beside her seat again. "We're almost through the worst of it," she murmurs. Her voice is soft, but her hands tremble. She's never seen a senior attendant snap like that. "Captain says we'll be landing in just over an hour. I'm right here, okay?" Naomi nods, eyes wet but steady. "Thank you." Across the aisle, Peter keeps his phone pressed to his chest, video still recording. "Don't worry," he says quietly. "You've got half the cabin as witnesses." Naomi tries to smile but can't. "I don't want witnesses," she says softly. "I just want to go home." At the front of the cabin, Chloe stands behind the curtain, shoulders stiff, arms crossed. Every few seconds she glances toward the aisle, trying to gauge the mood. Every glance meets cold eyes, turned backs, whispered disgust. She can feel it, the shift from authority to exile. She grabs the interphone, speaking quietly to the captain. "Are you sure I shouldn't handle this? I could explain my side before people twist it." The captain's voice is curt. "You will remain out of the cabin until we land. Legal will handle it. No exceptions." "But—" "No exceptions, Miss Reynolds." The click of the line disconnecting feels final. Chloe sets the handset down, breathing hard. For 12 years she's worn this uniform, kept her hair perfect, her voice even. She's dealt with drunks, crying kids, and corporate nonsense, but she's never lost control, until tonight. And now she can't stop replaying it. The sound of her own hands striking flesh, the shocked faces, the man's voice behind her, cold, quiet, powerful. She squeezes her eyes shut. Who was he? Richard Grant sits in row 12A, perfectly still. To anyone watching, he looks like any other calm, middle-aged traveler, but his mind is already several steps ahead. He's replaying the footage he saw from the reflection on Peter's phone, memorizing details, the angle of Chloe's hand, the expressions of the passengers, the way Naomi didn't fight back. Facts. He always deals in facts. He sends one short message to his assistant on the ground. "Pull crew record, Reynolds, Chloe, prepare statement." Then he pockets his phone, folding his hands. Patience, he reminds himself. Let procedure catch up to morality. The seatbelt sign flicks on again as light turbulence shudders through the plane. The motion jolts Naomi slightly. Ava stirs, whimpering. She shushes her gently, pressing a kiss to her forehead. The baby's small fingers curl around her mother's blouse. The contact steadies Naomi more than any apology could. Marissa returns with a warm towel and a bottle of water. "Here," she says softly, "for the swelling." Naomi presses the towel to her cheek, nodding her thanks. "You shouldn't get involved," she whispers. "I don't want you in trouble." Marissa's eyes flash with quiet anger. "She's the one in trouble, not you, not anymore." From 2 rows back, an older man leans forward. "I've flown for 40 years, he says to no one in particular. "Never seen a thing like that. That woman should be fired the second we land." A younger woman near the window adds, "People like her make everyone else look bad." Naomi doesn't respond. The kindness helps, but it also hurts. It reminds her that justice often comes only when the damage is already done. In the galley, Chloe paces like a caged animal. Her reflection in the metal panel stares back, makeup smudged, eyes red. She whispers under her breath, practicing her story. She grabbed at me first. I was defending myself. She was unstable. The lies come easily at first, then falter. She knows they won't hold. Too many cameras, too many witnesses. She grips the counter, nails biting into the surface. She thinks of her career, her mortgage, her mother's pride. All of it could vanish before morning, and all because of one woman with a crying baby. Her voice cracks in the empty galley. "It's not my fault." The curtain rustles. Marissa steps in, eyes sharp. "It is your fault," she says. "You hit a passenger. There's no coming back from that." Chloe glares. "Don't you dare talk down to me. You think they'll believe you? You're just another junior. They'll cut you loose before they touch me." "Maybe," Marissa says, "but at least I'll be able to look in a mirror tomorrow." She turns and leaves. The curtain sways, the silence inside the galley growing heavy again. Back in the cabin, the mood is shifting. The whispers are no longer fearful. They're united. Passengers exchange glances, nods. Someone murmurs, "We'll back her up if they try anything." Naomi notices it slowly. The strangers who avoided her eyes earlier now meet her gaze, some offering small smiles of solidarity. A woman across the aisle mouths, "You're brave." Naomi shakes her head. "I'm just tired." Peter leans forward. "When we land, I'll walk you off the plane. You shouldn't have to face them alone." She exhales, clutching Ava tighter. "Thank you." The captain's voice crackles overhead again. "Ladies and gentlemen, we'll begin our descent in 30 minutes. Please remain seated." The cabin lights brighten slightly. Outside, the horizon glows with city lights, the faint outline of Atlanta spreading beneath them. Richard Grant glances out the window, then back toward Naomi. His decision is made. She doesn't know it yet, but when those wheels touch down, her humiliation will become his mission. He unbuckles quietly, leaning toward Marissa as she walks past. "When we land, make sure that passenger, Carter, seat 14C, is escorted safely off before any crew deplanes. Understood?" Marissa nods, slightly confused but relieved by his composure. "Understood, sir." Richard gives a single nod, then settles back. The engines hum louder as the plane descends. In the galley, Chloe clutches the counter, steadying herself against the pressure change. Her heart pounds. She can't shake the image of Richard's eyes. Calm, knowing. Something about him feels dangerous in a way authority always is when it doesn't have to announce itself. She tells herself it's just paranoia, just guilt, but somewhere deep down, she knows the truth. Whatever power she thought she had, she lost it the moment she raised her hand. As the plane dips toward the glowing runway, passengers brace themselves. The city lights grow larger. The descent feels longer than it should, stretched thin by everything left unsaid. Naomi closes her eyes. She can feel the landing gear deploy with a dull thud beneath her feet. Ava sighs softly against her chest, finally asleep. For the first time in hours, Naomi allows herself to believe it might soon be over. But Richard Grant knows this is only the beginning. Some storms, he thinks, don't roar in the sky. They wait quietly on the ground. The wheels hit the runway with a heavy, shuddering thump. The engines roar, then ease as the plane slows, the city lights of Atlanta blurring past the windows. For a moment, no one breathes. The landing feels less like arrival and more like escape, a way out of the claustrophobic tension hanging inside the cabin. Naomi opens her eyes. Ava is asleep again. One tiny hand curled against her mother's collarbone. The sound of the wheels rolling over concrete hums through Naomi's bones. She's exhausted, but the fear hasn't left her body. She's still waiting for the next blow, for someone to tell her this isn't over. Richard Grant glances out the window, jaw tight. He's seen storms before, business crises, lawsuits, bad press, but this is personal. He watches the runway lights slide by, his reflection hard in the glass. An airline should fly on integrity, he thinks, not arrogance. The captain's voice comes over the intercom, low and professional. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Atlanta. Please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened until the seatbelt sign has been turned off." The tone is calm, but to those who know, there's strain under the words. In the cockpit, Captain Morales sits rigid, his hands still on the controls. He's been flying for 30 years, Seen panic, seen storms, even emergencies at 30,000 feet. But he's never faced something like this. A flight attendant assaulting a passenger? It's unthinkable. His co-pilot glances at him. Sir, ground control's asking if we need security on standby. Morales hesitates. We will. Quietly. No escalation. Last thing we need is a media circus on the jet bridge. They'll get one anyway, the co-pilot mutters. Morales exhales. I know. He presses the interphone, his voice clipped. Miss Reynolds, report to the cockpit. There's a pause, then Chloe's strained voice comes through. Captain, with all due respect, I think it's best if I wait until the passengers disembark. Morales frowns. Miss Reynolds, that wasn't a request. Silence. Then the sound of movement. The cockpit door opens moments later, and Chloe steps inside. Her face is pale, her eyes red. She doesn't look defiant anymore, just tired. Sit, Morales says without looking at her. Chloe lowers herself into the jump seat, hands clasped tightly. I made a mistake, she whispers. You hit a passenger, Morales says flatly. That's not a mistake. That's a career-ending decision. She provoked me. He cuts her off. Stop. Every camera in that cabin caught what happened. You know that. Chloe's mouth opens, then closes. She swallows hard. Captain, if the company finds out, they will, Morales says. And if you don't cooperate, you'll make it worse for yourself. You'll be met by our internal security and the police at the gate. Don't say a word until legal arrives. Her voice cracks. Sir, please, you've known me for years. And I thought I knew your character, Morales interrupts, turning his chair to face her. But tonight you made a choice that shamed this crew, this airline, and me personally. Do you have any idea who that man is in row 12A? She blinks, confused. Some business traveler? Morales' gaze is ice. That's Richard Grant, the owner of SkyConnect. The words hit like a second slap. Chloe's face drains of color. That's not… You're joking. I wish I were. He leans forward. He's been observing service operations for months, quietly. You picked the worst possible flight to lose control. Chloe covers her mouth with a trembling hand. Oh my God! In the cabin, Richard rises from his seat. Marissa meets his eyes, understanding flickering there. We've radioed ahead, she whispers. Security and paramedics are waiting, for the mother too. Good, Richard replies. Make sure they treat her with dignity. I'll handle the rest. Passengers start to gather their belongings, but no one moves to stand. The seatbelt sign is still glowing, the captain's authority holding them in place. The tension feels alive, like static in the air. Naomi looks around, clutching Ava. What's happening? She asks softly. Peter glances at her. They're probably calling ground security for her. Naomi swallows. I don't want her arrested, I know, Peter says gently. You just want peace. The engines hum as the plane taxis toward the gate. Outside, rain begins to fall, droplets streaking across the windows. The cabin lights reflect off them like silver threads. From the intercom, the captain's voice returns. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated until further notice. We'll be arriving at our gate shortly. The older passengers exchange uneasy looks. Some whisper prayers, others clutch their phones. Richard takes a slow breath. He knows what must come next. Control the narrative before chaos does. He pulls out his phone again, sends one more message to his assistant. Statement draft. Passenger protected, employee suspended, pending investigation. Emphasize accountability. Then he looks up. Naomi's watching him again, confusion and gratitude tangled in her eyes. He offers a small nod, reassurance wordless but strong. The plane stops. The seatbelt sign dings off. Normally, this moment brings a flurry of motion, bags unbuckled, overhead bins opening. But tonight, no one moves. They're waiting. The door opens, and two uniformed airline security officers step inside. Their voices are calm, controlled. Miss Reynolds? From the front, Chloe steps out of the galley, every eye on her. Her hands shake as she removes her name tag. Yes. Please come with us, one officer says. We'll escort you to the terminal. Her gaze flickers across the cabin, seeking sympathy, finding none. Her eyes land on Naomi, and for a heartbeat, something like regret passes between them. Then she looks past her to Richard. Recognition flashes. She sees who he really is now. Her lips part, but no words come. Richard meets her gaze, expression unreadable. You'll have your chance to explain, he says evenly. But tonight, You answer for what you've done. Chloe nods weakly, the weight of his authority final. The officers lead her toward the exit. The passengers watch in silence, the sound of rain growing louder outside. As the door opens, fresh air sweeps through the cabin. Cool, cleansing. Naomi exhales for what feels like the first time in hours. Marissa kneels beside her one last time. "They're ready for you outside," she says softly. "The owners ask that you and your baby be escorted first." Naomi hesitates. "The owner?" Marissa nods toward row 12A. "Him." Naomi turns. Richard Grant stands now, tall and calm, every trace of disguise gone. He extends a hand, not for show but in quiet respect. "Let me make sure you get the dignity you were denied," he says. For the first time, Naomi smiles, tired, trembling, but real. She nods, accepting his hand. As they walk toward the open door, the passengers rise slowly, some clapping, some simply watching with tears in their eyes. The rain outside smells like renewal. Richard glances once more toward the cockpit, voice low enough only for the captain to hear as he steps off the plane. "File the report, I'll take it from here." And just like that, the storm inside the sky becomes one waiting on the ground, bigger, louder, and far from over. The jet bridge hums outside, the faint metallic creak of the airport connecting to the plane. The rain keeps falling, soft and rhythmic, a strange contrast to the tension inside the cabin. People still sit frozen, reluctant to stand until they know exactly what's happening. The faint overhead lights reflect off the rows of silver seatbelts, unfastened but unused. Naomi clutches Ava closer, sensing movement ahead. Two uniformed airport security officers step inside, different from the ones who took Chloe away. Their faces are blank, professional, but Naomi sees the clipboard in one man's hand and the way he scans the rows with a rehearsed detachment. One officer stops at the front and says, "We're looking for a passenger, Naomi Carter." The words land like a blow. Naomi's pulse spikes. "Again?" She blinks, clutching her baby tighter. "That's me," she says softly. Peter immediately stands. "Hold on. Why are you asking for her?" The officer doesn't answer. "Ma'am, we need you to step off the aircraft for questioning regarding an onboard incident." Naomi's voice shakes. "You're mistaken. She was the one who hit me." The officer glances at his clipboard, indifferent. "We just need a statement, ma'am." Richard Grant rises from his seat, his voice calm but with an edge that slices through the tension. "That won't be necessary." The officers turn. One blinks, as if recognizing him but not trusting his eyes. "Sir, this is standard protocol," Richard cuts in. "Protocol doesn't include re-traumatizing a victim." He steps forward, pulling back the lapel of his jacket just enough to reveal his corporate badge. "Richard Grant, owner and executive chairman of SkyConnect Airlines, and this passenger is under my protection until our legal department is present." The officers straighten instantly. "Sir, we were told—" "You were told wrong," Richard says flatly. "You're not removing anyone from this plane without my authorization." A murmur ripples through the cabin. Phones rise again, recording the exchange. The officer with the clipboard glances at his partner, uncertain. "Mr. Grant, we were just following orders." "I'll handle your orders from now on," Richard replies. "Go inform airport security that the assaulted passenger is not being detained. The perpetrator already has been." The officer hesitates, then nods quickly. "Yes, sir." They retreat, their boots clicking down the jet bridge until the sound fades into the rain. A silence follows, heavier but calmer. Naomi exhales shakily. "Thank you," she whispers. Richard turns toward her. "You don't thank someone for doing what's right," he says quietly. "You just remember that next time, it's your voice that changes the outcome." She nods, eyes glassy. Ava squirms, letting out a small, sleepy sigh. Naomi kisses her forehead, the baby's warmth grounding her in the surreal quiet. The captain emerges from the cockpit, hat in hand. His uniform is impeccable, but his expression isn't. "Mr. Grant," he says softly, "my deepest apologies. I had no idea you were on board." "That's the point of traveling anonymously," Richard says. "You see the truth." Morales nods, shame flickering across his face. "We'll issue a full internal report. I've already secured the cabin camera footage and forwarded it to HQ." "Good," Richard says. "That will go directly to legal. And Captain—" "Yes, sir?" Richard's gaze hardens slightly. "Make sure every member of this crew knows that silence in the face of injustice is complicity. I want every flight attendant retrained within 30 days. Starting tomorrow. Yes, sir, Morales says quietly. Passengers begin to stir now, some finally standing. Overhead bins creak open. The sound of luggage shifting replaces the earlier dread. People move slower than usual, careful, subdued. Peter waits by Naomi's seat, holding her diaper bag. I'll walk with you, he says. Don't argue. Naomi smiles faintly. I wasn't going to. As she stands, her knees almost buckle from the fatigue. Richard steadies her with a hand on her shoulder. Take your time, he says. You've already done enough standing today. She laughs softly, a small weary sound. When she reaches the front, the cool air from the open cabin door hits her face. She breathes it in, as if purging the recycled tension that's been trapped in the plane for hours. Outside the door, flashes of red and blue from security lights reflect off the wet tarmac. A woman in a navy suit steps forward, one of SkyConnect's corporate lawyers. Ms. Carter, she says kindly, we have a car waiting for you. Mr. Grant asked that you and your child be taken directly to a hotel for the night. The company will cover everything. Naomi hesitates, glancing toward Richard. I don't need… You do, he says gently, because rest is part of healing, and tomorrow you'll tell your story, on your terms. Her eyes soften. You don't even know me. Richard smiles faintly. I know injustice when I see it, that's enough. Behind them, Marissa steps forward, her eyes bright with emotion. Miss Carter, she says, for what it's worth, I'll give my statement too. You shouldn't face this alone. Naomi's throat tightens. Thank you, you're brave. Marissa shakes her head. You're the brave one. The line of passengers waiting to exit watches quietly. A few clap softly, not a cheer but a gesture of respect. Others bow their heads as Naomi walks past, baby in her arms, Richard beside her. At the gate, a small crowd has already gathered. Airport staff, legal team members, and a few reporters who must have caught wind of the commotion through the passengers' leaked videos. Security keeps them back. Naomi pauses, uncertain. Richard steps slightly in front of her, blocking the flashes of cameras with his body. No interviews tonight, he says firmly to the reporters. You'll hear the truth in our statement tomorrow. For now, this woman deserves privacy. One reporter calls out, Sir, are you confirming that a SkyConnect employee assaulted a passenger? Richard looks at her, eyes cold. I'm confirming that we hold ourselves accountable. He turns back to Naomi. This way. As they step into the private corridor, the noise of the airport fades, replaced by the hush of rain hitting glass. Naomi adjusts Ava's blanket, the baby's breathing soft and even now. I still can't believe any of this happened, Naomi whispers. Richard walks beside her, hands clasped behind his back. You shouldn't have to, he says. The world needs to stop making women like you prove their innocence in public. She looks at him, unsure what to say. For the first time all day, someone spoke to her not as a victim, but as a person. At the end of the corridor, the lawyer holds the door open to a waiting car. Naomi steps inside carefully, cradling Ava. Richard lingers at the threshold. Get some rest, he says softly. Tomorrow, we start setting things right. She nods once, eyes meeting his. Thank you, Mr. Grant. Call me Richard, he says with a faint smile. You've earned the right to speak to me as an equal. The door closes. The car pulls away, headlights cutting through the rain. Richard stands in the terminal, watching until the taillights vanish. Then he turns toward the waiting reporters again, his expression hardening. Prepare your cameras, he says evenly. Tomorrow, you'll hear the real story. And behind him, through the glass, the runway gleams like a mirror, reflecting not just the storm that passed, but the one he's about to unleash. By the time the plane is emptied and the last passenger has stepped off, the once bright cabin feels hollow, like the ghost of everything that just happened. The smell of coffee still lingers in the air, mixed with faint traces of baby powder and tension. The crew stands awkwardly near the galley, avoiding each other's eyes. Captain Morales walks the aisle one last time, checking the overhead bins, his expression drawn. He pauses when he reaches row 12A. The seat where Richard Grant sat is empty now, but a folded document rests on the tray table, a small company letterhead card with 3 words written in clean black ink. We will talk. Morales exhales slowly. We will, he thinks grimly. Outside on the concourse, Richard moves with the precision of a man who has done this 1,000 times before. Quiet, deliberate, controlled. The private terminal feels too bright under the sterile white lights. The sound of rolling luggage echoes faintly as a few remaining crew members whisper near the end of the hall. He stops beside the window overlooking the tarmac. Rain streaks down the glass, and through the blur, he can see Naomi's car turning onto the main airport road, its headlights small and distant now. For a long moment, he just watches. Relief and anger fight quietly beneath his composed exterior. "Sir?" His assistant, Olivia Marks, approaches, holding a folder thick with printed emails and preliminary reports. She's young but sharp, his right hand for crisis control. "Everything's moving," she says. "Corporate security's reviewing the footage from the cabin cameras. HR's requesting to suspend Chloe Reynolds pending investigation." "Do it," Richard says without turning. "It's already done," Olivia replies. "She's been escorted off airport property. Local police want to know if you plan to press charges personally." Richard finally looks at her. "Personally?" "They found out you were on board," Olivia says quietly. "They're treating this as a direct incident involving the owner." He shakes his head. "No, this isn't about me, it's about her." He nods toward the window where Naomi's car disappeared. "Our system failed her, not me." Olivia hesitates. "The media already has passenger footage. It's going viral. 500,000 views in 20 minutes. Hatch justice." "For Naomi is trending." Richard exhales through his nose. "Of course it is." She flips open the folder. "Our PR department drafted a statement. SkyConnect Airlines is aware of an incident involving an employee and a passenger. We are cooperating fully with authorities." "Stop." His voice is calm but final. "That's the kind of sentence companies use when they're hiding." "We're not hiding." Olivia glances up. "Then what do we say?" Richard turns back to the rain, voice steady. "We tell the truth. And we lead with an apology." She blinks. "Sir, you're going to apologize publicly? You didn't do anything wrong?" "I own the company," he says simply. "That means everything that happens under its name is my responsibility." There's quiet admiration in Olivia's eyes, but also worry. That's going to make headlines. "Good," Richard says. "Let people read something worth believing." He walks toward the nearby conference room, a small glass enclosure filled with waiting executives, HR representatives, and legal counsel. As he enters, the murmur of voices halts instantly. Every head turns toward him. "Sit," he says, and the room obeys. One of the legal advisors, a gray-haired man named Cooper, clears his throat. "Mr. Grant, before we proceed, I must advise that our liability exposure here is significant. The passenger could file both criminal and civil suits." "She won't," Richard says. "Not if we handle this right." "And the employee?" another attorney asks. "Chloe Reynolds?" "She's done," Richard says bluntly. "Terminate her immediately for misconduct, but make sure it's clean, documented, procedural. No loopholes she can crawl through later." Cooper nods slowly. "Understood." A woman from HR speaks next. "What about the attendant who intervened, Marissa Lopez? She's requesting assurance she won't face retaliation." "She'll get more than that," Richard says. "She'll be promoted. Effective tomorrow, she's senior cabin lead for her division. We reward courage here." Murmurs ripple around the table. Olivia hides a small smile. "Now," Richard continues, "we focus on Naomi Carter." An executive from customer relations opens a spreadsheet. "We've already arranged hotel accommodations for her and her infant. Tomorrow morning, she'll meet with our representative to discuss compensation." "Not compensation," Richard interrupts. "Restoration." The man blinks. "Sir?" "She doesn't need hush money," Richard says. "She needs to know this company values her humanity. I want her to speak to the same training team that certifies our senior staff. If she agrees, we'll make her an advisor for passenger empathy training." A stunned pause. Someone whispers, "You want to hire her?" "I want her to help fix what we broke," Richard replies. Cooper leans back, impressed. "That's unprecedented, sir." Richard nods once. So was a flight attendant striking a passenger. For a moment, the only sound in the room is rain tapping the glass. Then Olivia's phone vibrates. She glances at the screen. "Sir, CNN just picked up the story. The headline reads, 'Airline scandal, mother assaulted mid-flight while owner was on board.' They're requesting a live comment." Richard exhales slowly. "Decline for now. Tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., we hold a press conference. Not in a hotel ballroom, in our hangar, where our employees can stand behind me." "Sir," Cooper warns, "if you speak before legal finishes—" Richard raises a hand. "This isn't about damage control, it's about leadership." He walks to the window again, eyes following the storm outside. People want to see if we'll hide behind procedure or stand beside principle. We're choosing the latter. The team nods silently. Even Cooper stops objecting. Richard glances at Olivia. Send Naomi a message from me tonight. Don't draft it. Write it as I say. She flips to a blank page. Ready? He speaks slowly, each word deliberate. Ms. Carter, I cannot undo what you endured, but I can ensure it changes everything that happens after. You were wronged under my company's name. Tomorrow, the world will hear your name with respect. R.G. Olivia finishes writing, her pen trembling slightly. I'll deliver it personally. Good, Richard says, finally turning from the window. Because tonight, silence isn't safety, it's cowardice, and I'm done being silent. He picks up his phone, scrolling through the early posts flooding social media. Grainy videos, headlines, outrage. Somewhere in the noise, a small clip catches his attention. Naomi in her seat, rocking Ava, whispering softly to calm her child even as chaos erupted around her. He watches it twice, then whispers, almost to himself, Grace under fire. Outside, lightning flashes once, illuminating the rain-slicked tarmac. The storm is still raging, but for the first time, it's moving in his direction. Tomorrow, it will break. Morning breaks gray over Atlanta, heavy with clouds and drizzle. In a quiet hotel suite on the 12th floor, Naomi Carter wakes to the faint sound of traffic outside. For a moment, she doesn't know where she is. The sheets smell like bleach and new fabric softener, not her home. Her first thought is of Ava, still sleeping peacefully in the crib beside the bed. The baby's soft breath is the only sound in the room. Naomi sits up slowly. Her cheek is tender where Chloe's hand struck her, a faint red mark still visible in the morning light. She touches it gently, half expecting it to throb again. But it's not pain she feels. It's disbelief. It wasn't a dream. It really happened. Her phone buzzes on the nightstand, a string of notifications lighting up the screen. She hesitates before picking it up. The first message is from Peter. Morning, you should see this. The video's everywhere. The world's on your side. Naomi swipes open the link. The video starts mid-argument. Chloe's voice, sharp and brittle, fills the speakers. Then maybe you shouldn't bring her if you can't handle it. The baby's cry follows. Then, the slap. The sound cracks through the phone's speaker like lightning. Even knowing it's coming, Naomi flinches. The clip continues, shaky but clear. Passengers gasping, Richard standing, his calm voice commanding, Sit down. The caption underneath reads, Racist flight attendant assaults, black mom holding her baby. Owner was watching the whole time. The post has over 1 million views already. Comments scroll by faster than she can read. Fire her, that poor mother. Finally, an owner who did something right. Naomi drops the phone into her lap. Her hands tremble. She didn't want attention, she wanted peace. But now, peace feels impossible. A soft knock at the door startles her. She stands, smoothing her robe. Who is it? Olivia Marks, a polite voice answers. From SkyConnect, ma'am? Naomi opens the door cautiously. The young woman from the airport last night stands there, holding a folder and a paper cup of coffee. Her expression is calm but kind. May I come in? She asks. Naomi nods and steps aside. I won't take much of your time, Olivia begins, setting the folder on the table. Mr. Grant asked me to deliver this personally. Naomi's eyes flicker with recognition. Richard? Yes, Olivia says, smiling faintly. He's preparing a public statement for this morning, but he wanted you to see it first. She opens the folder. Inside are printed pages, SkyConnect's official press release draft. The headline reads, An apology from our owner. SkyConnect condemns discrimination and violence. Naomi reads in silence. The statement is simple, direct, written in the same steady tone Richard spoke with on the plane. On Flight 482, a passenger was assaulted by an employee acting under the SkyConnect name. There are no excuses for what occurred. The employee has been terminated, and the company accepts full responsibility. To Ms. Naomi Carter and her child, we offer not just apology, but action, a commitment to rebuild our culture of empathy and respect. By the end, her throat tightens. He really wrote this? Olivia nods. Every word. Naomi lowers the paper. He didn't have to. Olivia shakes her head. He disagrees. He says leaders always have to. Naomi sits on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor. I just wanted to get home. I never wanted this. I know, Olivia says gently. But sometimes the people who don't want to lead end up leading anyway. Before Naomi can answer, her phone buzzes again. This time a call. The screen flashes a number marked private. She hesitates, then answers. Ms. Carter? The voice is familiar, steady, composed. Richard Grant. Yes, she says softly. I hope I'm not disturbing you. I wanted to make sure you received the statement. I did, she says. It's more than I expected. You deserve more than words, Richard replies. We're holding a press conference at 8. You're under no obligation to appear, but if you want to, there will be a place for you beside me. Naomi glances at Ava, still sleeping peacefully. I don't know if I can face cameras, she admits. Then don't, Richard says. Your strength isn't measured by standing on a stage. You've already done enough. I just need you to know that you started this change. Naomi exhales, unsure what to say. Thank you. There's something else, Richard adds. I'd like you to join a new program we're creating. Passenger advocacy and empathy training. You'll help design it. You'll be paid, of course. Naomi blinks. You want me to work for the airline? I want you to help fix what broke, he says simply. Your voice carries more truth than any consultant's report ever could. She's quiet for a long time. Finally, she says, Let me think about it. Take all the time you need, Richard says. We're not going anywhere. When the call ends, Naomi sits in silence, watching the city outside her window. The drizzle has turned to steady rain, washing the streets below. Her phone keeps buzzing. News outlets, social media notifications, messages from strangers calling her brave. But she doesn't feel brave. She feels human, tired, real. Olivia stands by the door. I'll leave you to rest, she says. A driver will pick you up at noon if you decide to attend. Naomi nods. Thank you, Olivia. After she's gone, Naomi walks to the window, lifting Ava into her arms. The baby blinks sleepily, cooing softly. Naomi whispers, You're too little to understand all this. But maybe one day you'll know why I didn't stay quiet. Down on the street, a small crowd is gathering outside the hotel. Reporters, activists, curious onlookers holding signs that read, Justice takes flight and dignity has no class section. Naomi's breath catches. She turns away from the window and holds Ava tighter. Somewhere across town, in a hangar filled with camera crews and employees, Richard Grant adjusts his tie in front of a podium. Olivia stands beside him, reading texts on her phone. She's not coming, she says quietly. Richard nods. That's fine. Today isn't about showing her face. It's about showing we finally have one as a company. At exactly 8 o'clock, the lights brighten, cameras focus, and the room falls silent. Richard steps up to the microphone. Good morning, he begins. His voice carries calm authority, the kind that silences a room before the first sentence is finished. Yesterday, one of our passengers was humiliated and assaulted on Flight 482. It happened under my company's name. That makes it my failure, and my responsibility to correct. He looks into the camera. There is no hierarchy in decency. Whether passenger or crew, black or white, rich or poor, we are all human. And if my airline forgot that, then we will relearn it, starting now. A hush fills the hangar. For once, the world watching through screens believes a corporate man's words. Back in her hotel room, Naomi watches the broadcast on silent. The subtitles scroll beneath his calm face. Real flight isn't about altitude, it's about humanity. Her lips part in a faint, astonished smile. For the first time since that nightmarish flight, she feels something she hasn't in days. Peace. Not because the world saw what happened, but because someone finally chose to see her. She whispers to Ava, Looks like justice knows how to fly after all. Outside, the rain stops. The clouds begin to break and sunlight filters through. A new day, and the storm finally has somewhere to land. The hotel room feels too quiet now. The morning storm has passed, but the silence it leaves behind is heavier than rain. Naomi sits at the edge of the bed, staring at her reflection in the mirror across the room. The mark on her cheek has faded, but she can still feel it, an invisible bruise deeper than skin. Ava sleeps in the crib, tiny fists tucked against her chest. Naomi watches her for a long moment, remembering how, during that flight, she had tried to hum away the chaos, soft lullabies breaking through fear. She wonders how many other mothers have had to do the same, swallow their pain so their children could feel safe for just a few moments longer. Her phone vibrates again, Another wave of notifications. News clips, headlines, interviews. Her face, caught mid-tier, plastered on screens all over the internet. The flight that shook the skies, one headline reads. Another. Black mother speaks out after airborne assault, but she hasn't spoken. Not yet. The only sound now is the faint hum of the air conditioner and Ava's gentle breathing. Naomi presses her hands to her face and exhales slowly. The world sees her as a symbol now, but she still feels like a woman who just wants to go home. Her phone rings again, this time a name she recognizes, Mom. She answers quickly. Hi, Mama. The voice on the other end is warm but trembling. Naomi, baby, I saw the news. Lord, I nearly dropped my coffee. Are you all right? Naomi forces a small smile she knows her mother can't see. I'm fine, Mama, just tired. You shouldn't have to be brave all the time, her mother says softly. Let people help you now. I know, Naomi whispers. It just feels strange. I never wanted attention. I just wanted to get to Atlanta and tuck Ava into bed. Her mother sighs. Sometimes, baby, God don't ask us if we're ready. He just decides it's your turn to be seen. Naomi feels tears burn at the corners of her eyes. I didn't want it to be like this. I know, her mother says. But listen to me. You showed that child of yours something important. You showed her that silence isn't safety. For a long time, Naomi can't speak. The words settle in her chest, anchoring her. Thank you, Mama. Get some rest, her mother says. And when you're ready, tell your story, but make sure it's yours. Don't let anyone else tell it for you. After the call ends, Naomi sits in silence, staring out at the skyline through the hotel window. The city feels alive in a way she never noticed before. Cars moving, people rushing, each of them carrying their own invisible battles. She realizes how small her world has been lately, how motherhood, bills, and quiet survival had left little room for the kind of courage the world now demands from her. A knock at the door pulls her from her thoughts. It's Olivia again, holding a small box and an envelope. Good morning again, she says with a gentle smile. Mr. Grant asked me to give you these before his meeting. Naomi opens the envelope first. Inside is a handwritten note on SkyConnect stationery. Naomi, you reminded us what dignity looks like under pressure. I'll make sure the world doesn't forget. Thank you for forcing us to be better. RG. Inside the box is a simple silver bracelet engraved with the SkyConnect logo and the words "Empathy begins with listening." Naomi traces the engraving with her thumb. He didn't have to do all this, she murmurs. Olivia nods. That's why it matters that he did. They sit together for a moment, both watching Ava, who has started to stir in the crib. You're really calm, Naomi says softly. You don't seem shocked by any of this. Olivia smiles faintly. When you work in crisis management, you learn to recognize moments that change things. This is one of those moments. Naomi glances at her. You really think so? I know so, Olivia replies. You didn't just stand up for yourself. You made a company face its conscience. Naomi looks down, shaking her head. All I did was cry. Olivia's voice is kind. Sometimes that's what change looks like. Someone finally crying where the world can see it. Ava begins to fuss softly. Naomi lifts her, rocking gently as the baby's tiny hands clutch at her hair. I just hope she never has to go through something like that. Olivia stands, adjusting her blazer. She won't. Not if people keep paying attention. She pauses. By the way, Mr. Grant's team finalized your role for the empathy board. You don't have to accept yet, but the offer's official. Naomi looks up, surprised. Already? Olivia nods. He doesn't waste time when he believes in something. When Olivia leaves, Naomi holds Ava and walks to the mirror again. The reflection looking back at her isn't the same woman who boarded that plane yesterday. There's still exhaustion, yes, but beneath it, something steadier, something unbroken. Her phone buzzes once more, a voicemail notification. She presses play. It's Richard. Ms. Carter, his voice says, calm and measured. The press conference is over. I told them your story isn't about pity, it's about respect. They applauded when I said your name. I just thought you should know. Naomi closes her eyes, a tear slipping down her cheek. Later, she turns on the television. Every channel seems to be talking about the same story. News anchors discuss policy changes, other passengers from Flight 482 give interviews, and Marissa's clip goes viral too. In it, she says, I just did what anyone should have done. but it was Ms. Carter's calm that changed everything. Naomi feels her heart tighten. Her calm. She'd been trembling the entire time, holding herself together by a thread, but somehow that's what people saw. Calm, dignity, grace. The word feels foreign on her tongue, but not unwelcome. Outside, the clouds part and sunlight pours through the window, glinting off the bracelet on her wrist. Naomi takes it as a sign. The world, for once, looking a little brighter. Ava lets out a tiny giggle in her arms. Naomi laughs softly, pressing her lips to the baby's forehead. "See, my little one? We're still here." For the first time since the flight, she feels ready to face whatever comes next. Not as a victim, but as a woman who refused to disappear. And somewhere in the SkyConnect headquarters across town, Richard Grant glances at the same rising sun and smiles faintly to himself. Because for the first time in years, his company feels alive with purpose again. One mother's pain had done what a decade of board meetings never could: make them remember what it means to be human. The SkyConnect headquarters sits 20 floors above downtown Atlanta, a tower of glass and steel that usually hums with quiet efficiency. Today it feels more like a courtroom. The air is thick with tension. Phones ring constantly, screens flash breaking headlines, and every conversation seems to start with the same sentence: "Did you see the video?" In the main boardroom, the company's senior staff gathers around a long polished table. The blinds are half closed, rain tapping lightly against the windows. A projection screen glows at the far end of the room, replaying the viral footage for what must be the 100th time. Chloe's voice fills the room. "Then maybe you shouldn't bring her if you can't handle it." Then the slap. The sound still makes people flinch. When the clip ends, no one speaks. Richard Grant stands near the window, arms folded. His reflection in the glass looks calm, but his eyes are hard. He turns slowly toward his team. "So," he says, voice low, "this is what the world now knows us for." A marketing executive clears his throat. "Sir, the social media fallout is significant. We're trending on every major platform, over 4 million views overnight. Public trust metrics dropped by 30% in 8 hours. 30%, Richard repeats, almost to himself. That's 30% of people who used to believe we cared. HR Director Linda Patel speaks next, her voice careful. The termination paperwork for Chloe Reynolds is complete. Her employee record is flagged for misconduct. We're coordinating with the union to avoid dispute filings. Good, Richard says. Make sure her severance is withheld pending investigation. No golden parachutes for cruelty. At the far end of the table, Cooper, the company's chief legal officer, leans forward, fingers steepled. The passenger story is everywhere, Richard. We can control our narrative only if we move fast. I recommend a settlement offer within 48 hours. Richard's eyes narrow. A settlement implies we're buying silence. Cooper sighs. It's the standard response in cases like this. Richard shakes his head. Standard is what got us here. A silence falls over the room again. Rain streaks down the windows like veins of silver. Olivia sits beside the projector, scrolling through live updates on her tablet. Sir, the press conference yesterday improved our numbers. Public opinion shifted slightly in our favor after your statement. People believe you. They just want proof the company is actually changing. Richard nods slowly. Then proof is what they'll get. He walks to the whiteboard, picking up a marker. We can't undo what happened, but we can make sure it never happens again. He writes 3 words in bold strokes: empathy, accountability, transparency. Those are our pillars now, he says, turning to face the room. Not slogans for a brochure, requirements for survival. Linda raises a cautious hand. Sir, what about training programs? We already have diversity and ethics modules. Not enough, Richard interrupts. We teach people rules, not respect. I want every employee, from pilot to porter, trained directly by the Empathy Board within 60 days. Naomi Carter will serve as a consultant. Gasps and murmurs ripple around the table. A senior operations manager speaks up. You mean the Naomi Carter, the passenger? Yes, Richard says simply. She doesn't work here. She does now, Richard replies. Her lived experience is our greatest lesson. If our staff can't see her humanity, they'll never see anyone else's. Cooper frowns. That's a risky precedent, Richard. Bringing an outsider, especially the victim, into internal operations could complicate liability. Liability? Richard echoes. We're not trying to hide from consequences. We're trying to redefine them. For a moment, no one knows how to respond. Richard's tone is calm but absolute. Olivia glances around. I've already drafted the press release for the empathy initiative, she says. If approved, we can announce it by evening. Public response will depend on whether Ms. Carter accepts. She will, Richard says quietly. She may not realize it yet, but she's stronger than she knows. He turns back to the window, watching the city below. A flash of cameras from street level catches his eye. Reporters clustered outside the building, waiting for new statements. The noise of helicopters hums faintly in the distance. This building was built to represent progress, Richard murmurs. Steel and glass, transparent but cold. Maybe it's time we actually live up to that idea. Cooper sighs. I'll prepare the legal framework for her consultancy role, but I hope you understand, Richard, you're making history and enemies. I've made worse, Richard replies. Let's move forward. The meeting adjourns. Executives file out, murmuring to one another in low tones. When the last one leaves, only Olivia remains. She walks up beside Richard, arms crossed. You know, when I joined this company, I never imagined I'd see you angry. He smiles faintly. I'm not angry, Olivia. I'm disappointed. There's a difference. Still, she says, this could be the start of something good. It has to be, he answers. Otherwise, all of this, the brand, the planes, the promises, is just metal and noise. A soft chime breaks the silence, a new notification on Olivia's tablet. Sir, she says, reading quickly, Ms. Carter just posted something on her social media. Richard raises an eyebrow. What did she say? Olivia reads aloud. To everyone sending love, thank you. I'm not a hero. I'm a mother who refused to disappear. I hope no one ever has to prove their worth on a flight again. The room goes quiet. Richard's lips press into a faint, proud smile. That's better than any statement we could have written. Olivia nods. She's got the world listening. Richard sets his hands on the edge of the table, voice low. Then we better have something worth saying. He glances at the board again. The words empathy, accountability, transparency, staring back at him. For the first time in years, he feels the weight of leadership not as a burden, but as purpose. Across town, Naomi sits on her hotel balcony, unaware of the ripples her words just caused. She watches the skyline shimmer beneath the clearing sky. The bracelet Richard gave her catches the light. Ava giggles in her lap, reaching for the sparkle. Naomi smiles, kissing her daughter's forehead. Looks like Mommy started something big, huh? Below in the streets, buses and billboards already flash SkyConnect's new slogan. Empathy takes flight. It happened faster than anyone expected. Too fast for cynics to dismiss, too honest for spin doctors to control. For once, an apology had become more than a press release. It had become a promise. And for Naomi Carter, that promise meant her pain was finally becoming something else. Power. The interrogation room inside SkyConnect's legal division isn't meant to intimidate, but it does. The glass walls look out onto a gray hallway where people pass without looking in. A single recording camera blinks red in the corner. The hum of the air conditioner is the only sound. Chloe Reynolds sits at the metal table, hands clasped so tightly that her knuckles are white. The blue of her uniform looks dull under the fluorescent lights. Her hair, once perfectly styled, has lost its shape. The confident posture she wore during flights is gone. She's smaller now, a shadow of her old self. Across from her sits a corporate investigator, Angela Porter, a former federal compliance officer hired by SkyConnect years ago to handle internal misconduct cases. Her tone is calm, professional, but her eyes are sharp. A recorder sits between them. Angela presses a button. Interview with employee Chloe Reynolds, cabin crew ID 4372, regarding the Flight 482 incident. Recording begins at 9:07 a.m. Chloe swallows hard, trying to steady her voice. Am I being fired? That depends on your cooperation, Angela replies evenly. I want you to describe, in your own words, what happened during the flight. Chloe exhales shakily. I was doing my job. The passenger, Naomi Carter, was disruptive. Her baby was crying loudly. Other passengers were complaining. Angela tilts her head. Multiple witness statements indicate that no passengers complained until you began raising your voice. That's not true, Chloe insists. They were uncomfortable. I was maintaining order. Angela clicks her pen. Maintaining order, she repeats. By physically striking a seated passenger holding an infant? Chloe's cheeks flush red. It wasn't like that. She grabbed the blanket too high over the baby's face. It was unsafe. I was trying to help. By slapping her? Angela asks, still calm. Chloe's voice cracks. She was aggressive. You don't know what it's like up there. You try to control chaos in a tiny metal tube at 30,000 feet. Everyone watching, judging. She looked at me with this attitude, like I was beneath her. Angela studies her. You said she looked at you with attitude? Yes. Could it be that she looked at you with fear? Chloe blinks rapidly, caught off guard. No, she was smug. People like that always play victim after the fact. Angela doesn't react, but her pen stops moving. People like that? She asks quietly. Chloe stares at her hands. You're twisting my words. I'm asking what you meant. I meant passengers who cause problems, Chloe says quickly. You know what I meant. I'm not sure I do, Angela replies. You've worked for this airline for 12 years. In that time, there have been 7 informal complaints about your tone with passengers, all dropped. Most described you as rude or condescending. Some even used the word hostile. You were warned twice. Why didn't you change your behavior? Chloe's voice rises, defensive. Because I was good at my job. My performance reviews were spotless. You think I got promoted by being nice? No, by being efficient, by keeping control. Control, Angela echoes. Even when no one else was losing it? Chloe's breathing quickens. I didn't mean to hurt her, she says suddenly. It just happened. She wouldn't listen, and everyone was staring. I snapped. Angela nods slowly, jotting notes. Thank you for your honesty. But you understand that snapping doesn't erase accountability, correct? Chloe looks away, eyes glistening. I was under pressure. Everyone on that flight was under pressure, Angela says quietly. You were the one with authority. The silence stretches between them. Outside the glass, 2 corporate security officers wait by the door. One of them glances in, sympathy flickering across his face before he looks away. Angela turns off the recorder. For what it's worth, Chloe, I don't think you're evil. I think you're afraid of losing power, of being irrelevant, of being wrong. But fear isn't an excuse to forget decency. Chloe's voice breaks. What happens now? Your employment is terminated effective immediately, Angela says. Legal will contact you regarding formal charges. SkyConnect intends to cooperate fully with the FAA and local authorities. Chloe's shoulders slump. So that's it? 12 years and I'm gone? Angela stands, collecting the files. 12 years of work doesn't vanish because of one mistake, but respect does. She pauses, softening slightly. You'll have to live with this, Ms. Reynolds. And maybe one day you'll understand what that mother felt. As Angela leaves, the door clicks shut, leaving Chloe alone. The hum of the air conditioner feels deafening now. She stares at her hands that once served coffee, helped passengers buckle children into seats, adjusted blankets. Now they're just shaking. For the first time, she admits to herself what she's been denying since that moment on the plane. She struck a woman holding a baby, and there's no justification left that can make it right. Across town, Richard Grant sits in his office, the blinds half drawn. He watches the interrogation recording from his computer screen. Chloe's words, her defensiveness, her collapse, they play like a slow confession. Olivia stands nearby, arms crossed. You were right, she says softly. She's not cruel by design, just broken by years of unchecked ego. Richard sighs. Power without empathy always rots from the inside. What do we do with her file? Olivia asks. Keep it, he says. Use it for training. Let every employee see what happens when pride replaces compassion. Olivia nods. And Naomi? She's thinking it over, Richard says. I don't want to push her. Change only works if she chooses it. He pauses, closing the laptop. But when she does, if she does, we'll rebuild this company from that choice. Outside, sunlight begins to break through the clouds, lighting up the mirrored sides of the SkyConnect tower. The city below bustles on, unaware that somewhere inside its skyline, an airline is quietly trying to rewrite its soul. And in a small apartment across town, Chloe Reynolds packs her uniform into a box. Her trembling fingers pause at the stitched logo on her sleeve, SkyConnect Airlines, and she feels a sharp ache in her chest. For 12 years, she believed that logo meant power. Now she knows it should have meant responsibility. She closes the box, sealing it shut. Outside her window, the distant sound of a plane taking off echoes through the clouds. For the first time in her life, Chloe doesn't look up. The next morning, Atlanta's skyline gleams beneath a pale sunrise. The rain has stopped, but its scent still lingers in the air, a kind of renewal that feels almost symbolic. Inside SkyConnect headquarters, the lobby buzzes with tension and anticipation. Reporters crowd near the glass doors, cameras ready, waiting for a glimpse of the man who has captured the nation's attention. On the 22nd floor, Richard Grant stands before a mirror, adjusting his tie. He's dressed in a charcoal suit, crisp white shirt, no corporate pin. He doesn't need one anymore. The world already knows who he is. For years, he's preferred to stay behind the curtain, letting others speak for him. But after Flight 482, the curtain burned down. Now he faces the fire directly. Olivia enters the room, a tablet in her hand. Press conference starts in 15. All networks are live streaming. CNN, BBC, even morning talk shows. They've dubbed it The Owner's Reckoning. Richard gives a quiet, humorless smile. Catchy. She hesitates. You don't have to do this alone, sir. We can let PR handle the Q&A. No, he says, straightening his jacket. This started with my silence. It'll end with my voice. Olivia nods, but her eyes betray concern. Naomi confirmed she'll be watching from home. She said to tell you, make them listen. Richard pauses, a flicker of warmth softening his features. Then that's what I'll do. Downstairs, the hangar has been transformed again. Rows of SkyConnect employees, pilots, mechanics, attendants, office staff fill the space. Some look nervous, others hopeful. The massive company logo gleams behind the podium, flanked by the words, "Empathy takes flight." As Richard steps into view, the room quiets instantly. The echo of his footsteps carries through the hangar. He stops at the microphone, glancing briefly at the cameras, then at his employees. Yesterday, the world learned my name, he begins, his voice even and clear. But this isn't about me. It's about a woman named Naomi Carter and her baby, Ava. It's about every passenger who's ever been made to feel small when they deserved respect. And it's about every employee who forgot that uniforms don't grant superiority. They grant responsibility. A ripple of movement passes through the crowd. Some attendants lower their eyes. Others nod slowly, their expressions somber. Richard continues, "When I founded SkyConnect, I said we would connect people, not just places. Somewhere along the way, we forgot that promise. Flight 482 reminded us, in the hardest possible way, that connection begins with empathy." He pauses, letting the words settle. "We failed Naomi Carter. We failed every customer who trusted us. And as the owner of this company, that failure is mine." The murmurs fade into silence again. Cameras zoom in on his face. The sincerity in his tone leaves no space for corporate spin. "That's why today I'm announcing 3 changes," he says, holding up a hand. First, SkyConnect is establishing the Carter Initiative, a permanent internal department dedicated to passenger dignity and inclusion. It will review every complaint personally, not by form letter but by human conversation. The room hums with surprise. Second, he continues, every employee, from me to the newest trainee, will undergo a complete empathy and bias retraining program. The first advisor to this program will be Ms. Naomi Carter herself, if she accepts. Applause breaks out from the back rows, hesitant at first, then growing louder. Olivia smiles faintly. And third, Richard says, lowering his voice, we will make public every disciplinary action taken from this day forward. Transparency will be our policy, not our punishment, because trust can't exist behind closed doors. The applause swells now, filling the hangar. The employees who'd come expecting a scolding find themselves caught in something unexpected: renewal. Richard lets it die down before continuing. To the media, to our passengers, and to everyone watching, this is not damage control. This is course correction. SkyConnect isn't perfect, but we can be honest. And if we can be honest, we can rebuild. He steps away from the microphone slightly. We are not measured by our mistakes, he says softly. We are measured by how we make them right. Cameras flash. Reporters raise their hands, shouting questions. Mr. Grant, will you meet with Ms. Carter personally? What disciplinary action will Chloe Reynolds face? Do you believe racism is systemic in SkyConnect? Richard holds up a hand. I'll answer one at a time. He points to the first reporter. Yes, I will meet with Ms. Carter. Privately, not for headlines. As for Ms. Reynolds, her termination is complete and her case has been turned over to the authorities. And regarding your final question, he pauses. Bias exists everywhere humans do. The only question is whether we face it or pretend it isn't there. SkyConnect will face it. Flashbulbs burst in rapid succession. His calm doesn't falter. He's not a man defending a company anymore. He's one redefining it. Olivia watches from the side, phone in hand, notifications exploding. #Carter initiative is already trending worldwide. The internet, for once, isn't mocking, it's applauding. When Richard finishes, the employees rise to their feet. The applause isn't polite this time, it's thunderous, raw, almost cathartic. He nods once, humbled, and steps down from the podium. Back in the green room, Olivia hands him a glass of water. "That was extraordinary," she says softly. "They believed you." He takes a sip, exhaling. "Let's hope they believe in the work that comes next." A young attendant enters nervously, holding an envelope. "Sir, this just arrived for you, hand-delivered." Richard opens it carefully. Inside, a small note written in Naomi's handwriting. "You kept your promise. I accept the role. Let's teach them to see." For the first time in days, a genuine smile spreads across his face. "She said yes," Olivia grins. "Then it's official. SkyConnect has 2 captains now." Richard laughs quietly. "No," he says. "She's not my co-captain. She's my compass." He folds the note and slips it into his jacket pocket. Outside, applause still echoes faintly through the hangar. Later that day, headlines flood every major outlet. Airline owner publicly accepts responsibility. Passenger Naomi Carter joins SkyConnect to lead empathy training. Justice at 30,000 feet, how one flight changed corporate America. Naomi watches from her hotel room, Ava sleeping peacefully beside her. When Richard finishes his speech, she whispers to herself, "You did it." But she knows this isn't just his victory. It's a shared one, a bridge built from pain toward progress. Outside, a SkyConnect plane ascends through the morning sky, sunlight glinting off its silver body. On its tail, freshly painted words shimmer in gold. The Carter Initiative. Naomi watches it disappear into the clouds and smiles. For the first time since the slap, she feels light enough to breathe again. 2 days after Richard's public address, the SkyConnect headquarters feels different. The building, once cold and corporate, now pulses with a strange energy, a mix of fear, hope, and urgency. The glass walls that once reflected only skyline now reflect accountability. Every floor hums with movement, emails flying, meetings overlapping, policies rewritten in real time. At the top, the executive floor is quieter. Richard Grant sits in his office, watching the clouds drift across the morning sky. The storm that had threatened to destroy his company is still hovering, but now it's one he controls. Across from him sits Olivia, tablet in hand, reviewing the ongoing investigation updates. Her eyes dart over reports, camera transcripts, and statements from Flight 482 passengers. "We've finished collecting every account," she says. 27 passengers submitted written testimonies. 23 recorded videos. Every single one supports Naomi's version of events. Richard nods slowly. "And the crew?" Marissa Lopez gave a full statement. The other 2 attendants backed her up. Captain Morales confirmed the audio logs match what the passengers captured. Olivia swipes to the next document. "FAA inspectors have opened a formal inquiry into cabin crew conduct, but they're leaning on our cooperation. So far, no fines." Richard leans back in his chair. "That's good. It means they trust us to clean up our own mess. Or they're watching to see if we fail," Olivia counters. Richard smirks faintly. "Either way, we do it right." The door opens. HR Director Linda Patel steps in, holding a stack of binders nearly as tall as her arm. "Final personnel audit," she announces. "We reviewed every cabin crew complaint in the last 5 years. 43 incidents of passenger mistreatment never made it past middle management." Olivia's eyebrows shoot up. 43? Linda nods grimly. "Most were written off as attitude misunderstandings. It's systemic neglect, not isolated behavior." Richard stands, walking to the window. "And we called ourselves world-class." His voice is quiet but sharp, carrying across the room. "How many Naomi Carters have there been that we didn't film?" Linda hesitates. "Too many." "Then this investigation isn't about one flight," Richard says, turning back to them. "It's about the culture that made that flight possible." He gestures toward the table. "I want full transparency. Release the findings internally by end of week. Let every employee see the numbers for themselves." Olivia frowns slightly. "That's bold. It could spark backlash from the unions." "Good," Richard says. "Backlash means they're finally paying attention." Linda nods and leaves, clutching the files. When the door closes, Richard exhales, rubbing the bridge of his nose. 12 years, he murmurs. "It took one slap to show us how blind we've been." Olivia studies him. You're not just fixing the company, are you? You're fixing yourself. He chuckles softly. I guess so. It's strange, seeing what I built reflected through someone else's pain. Olivia sits across from him, setting down her tablet. She changed you. Naomi? Yes. Olivia smiles faintly. She reminded you what leadership looks like. Not authority, empathy. Richard doesn't answer, but the faint smile tugging at the corner of his mouth says enough. A soft buzz interrupts them, his phone lighting up with a name he now recognizes instantly. Naomi Carter. He answers. Ms. Carter. Her voice is calm but tired. I got the email from your team about the internal findings. I read it twice. And? I'm still trying to process it, she admits. It's bigger than I thought. All those complaints, all those people who just gave up. That's why we need you, Richard says. This isn't about policy, it's about perspective. You saw what everyone else ignored. Naomi is quiet for a moment. I'll help, Richard, but I want one condition. I'm listening. No PR filters, she says. If I'm going to help rebuild this culture, I get to tell the truth, even if it hurts your brand. Richard smiles slightly. That's exactly why I asked you. Across town, cameras flash outside the courthouse where Chloe Reynolds exits through the side door. Her hearing is short. A formal reprimand, a possible misdemeanor assault charge pending review. Her lawyer keeps her head down as reporters shout questions. Ms. Reynolds, do you have anything to say to Naomi Carter? Do you regret what you did? Do you think you were treated unfairly? Chloe doesn't answer. She just walks faster, the hood of her coat pulled low. But inside, denial still claws at her chest. She tells herself it wasn't assault, it was a misunderstanding. She tells herself she's the real victim, until she sees a billboard across the street, glowing through the mist. Empathy takes flight, inspired by the Carter Initiative. Naomi's face, serene and strong, stares back at her. For a moment, Chloe stops walking. Her chest tightens. She can't escape it, the world's reflection of what she became. She whispers under her breath, that should have been me. But even as the words leave her mouth, she knows it never could have been. Back at headquarters, the investigation team continues its work. HR emails light up screens. Employees whisper in hallways. Some are defensive, others remorseful. The culture is shifting, but slowly, painfully, like a ship turning in rough seas. In one of the smaller meeting rooms, Naomi joins via video call for her first advisory session. Her face appears on the large screen, Ava occasionally babbling in the background. The employees in the room, managers, flight trainers, attendants, sit quietly, waiting. Naomi clears her throat. I'm not here to blame anyone, she begins. But I want to start with a question. When was the last time any of you really looked at a passenger and saw a person instead of a seat number? The room stays silent. I've flown a lot, she continues softly. You can tell when someone sees you and when they don't. On Flight 482, I was invisible until someone needed to prove their power. That's what has to change. Her voice doesn't waver. Empathy isn't just smiling at people. It's remembering that your authority ends where someone else's dignity begins. There's a quiet murmur of agreement around the room. One older flight attendant wipes her eyes. Richard watches from his office feed, unseen but deeply moved. Naomi isn't reading from a script. She's speaking from truth, the kind of truth that can't be rehearsed. When the call ends, he leans back, smiling faintly. She's doing it, he murmurs. Olivia steps in just then, holding a new press clipping. The Carter Initiative is trending worldwide, she says. Even competitors are issuing their own statements about empathy and equality. Richard chuckles. Good. Let them copy us for the right reasons. Olivia grins. Feels strange, doesn't it? Seeing progress come from chaos. He nods, staring out the window at the clear sky. Progress always does. Down in the city, a SkyConnect jet takes off, gleaming in the sunlight. Inside it, new attendants greet passengers with something the airline hadn't truly offered in years, genuine warmth. And somewhere in a quiet hotel room, Naomi Carter watches the same plane climb through the clouds, whispering to Ava, "That's ours, baby. That's our sky now." The investigation had started as damage control, but now it was becoming something else entirely. It was the beginning of reform and redemption. The glass doors of the SkyConnect disciplinary wing slide open with a faint hiss, and Richard Grant steps through. The corridor beyond is silent, its white walls lined with framed photographs of past milestones, awards, charity flights, smiling crews. They feel like ghosts now, reminders of a version of the company that existed before Flight 482 tore through its polished facade. At the end of the hall, a small conference room waits. Inside sits Chloe Reynolds. She looks up as Richard enters, her expression caught between fear and defiance. The crisp uniform she once wore with pride has been replaced by a simple blazer. Her hands rest in her lap, fidgeting with a folded tissue. Richard doesn't speak immediately. He closes the door, leaving only the two of them and the soft hum of the overhead lights. He takes a seat across from her, calm, deliberate. For a moment, neither says a word. Then Chloe breaks the silence. "I guess this is where I'm supposed to apologize again." Richard studies her. "Supposed to?" Her jaw tightens. "Everyone keeps telling me what I'm supposed to do. Say sorry, accept blame, disappear. No one's asked what really happened." Richard leans back slightly. "I watched the footage myself. I heard your words. What more should I ask?" Chloe exhales sharply, her voice rising. "You think it's that simple? You weren't in my position. Every flight, it's pressure. You deal with people yelling, ignoring you, treating you like a servant. Then one day you snap, and the whole world decides you're a monster." Richard's gaze doesn't waver. "You didn't snap at a rude businessman or a drunk passenger. You snapped at a woman holding her child. You struck her." Chloe looks away. "I told you it wasn't like that." "It was exactly like that," Richard says, his tone low but cutting. "The cameras don't lie. You hit someone who couldn't fight back. You didn't just lose your temper, you abused authority." Chloe's throat tightens. "You have no idea how hard it is to stay composed up there." "I do," he replies quietly. "I've spent 30 years managing thousands of people, many under more pressure than you. Most of them never forgot their humanity." The words hang heavy in the air. Chloe's eyes flick up to his. "You're enjoying this, aren't you? Being the hero, the benevolent savior who fixes everything." Richard's expression remains calm, but his voice hardens. "You think this is about image? I've spent the last 2 weeks dismantling the company I built to rebuild something better. That's not heroism, that's responsibility." Her lip trembles, and for the first time, her confidence cracks. "Do you know why I became a flight attendant?" Richard doesn't answer. "My mother worked 2 jobs, she says quietly. She wanted me to see the world, to be more than what people expected. But somewhere along the way, passengers stopped seeing us as people. We were props, smiles on command. I thought if I could control every detail, maybe they'd respect me." "Respect isn't taken," Richard says softly. "It's earned through grace." She gives a bitter laugh. "Grace? Easy for a billionaire to say." He leans forward slightly. "You think wealth shields me from accountability? It doesn't. The difference between us, Ms. Reynolds, is that when I fail, I face it." Chloe goes quiet. For the first time, she looks genuinely small, fragile even. "So what now?" she asks finally. "Do you want to make an example out of me?" Richard shakes his head. "I don't want to destroy you. I want you to understand the damage you caused. Naomi Carter didn't just lose her dignity that night. You made her question her place in a world that already makes it harder for her to exist. You reinforced every prejudice she's ever had to endure. That's what you carry now." Chloe swallows hard, blinking back tears. "I didn't mean to hurt her." "But you did," he says simply. "And intent doesn't erase impact." He stands, pacing slowly toward the window. "I could have let HR handle this. I could have sent lawyers. But I needed you to hear it from me, that your actions will shape this company for years to come. You've become the face of what we're fighting against." Her voice trembles. "So I'm the villain now?" He turns back to her. "You were. What you do next decides if you stay one." She looks down, her fingers tightening around the tissue until it shreds. "I can't go back out there. The world hates me." "The world doesn't hate you," Richard says. "It's waiting to see who you become after this." He slides a single document across the table. Chloe looks at it, an agreement labeled Restorative Partnership Proposal. Her brow furrows. "What's this?" "Naomi's idea," Richard says. "The Carter Initiative will offer you a chance to participate in training sessions, sharing what went wrong, owning it publicly, helping others recognize warning signs before they cross the same line. It's not forgiveness, it's accountability." Chloe's eyes widen. "She agreed to that?" "She did," Richard says, "because she believes change only means something if it reaches the people who caused the pain." Chloe stares at the document, speechless. Why would she give me that chance? Because she's everything you weren't that day, Richard answers quietly. Patient, compassionate, strong. A single tear slips down Chloe's cheek. She wipes it quickly, embarrassed. And if I say no? Then you stay exactly where you are, Richard says. Defined by one moment instead of redeemed by it. For a long time, she doesn't move. Then, slowly, she reaches for the pen. Her hand trembles as she signs. When she finishes, she looks up. You think this will fix it? Richard meets her eyes. No, but it's a start. He gathers the papers and heads for the door. Before leaving, he stops. You wanted to be respected, Chloe. Earn it now. Not through control, but through honesty. He leaves her sitting there, the quiet swallowing her whole. The weight of the pen in her hand feels heavier than any punishment could. Outside, Richard walks down the hall, his reflection trailing him in the glass. He feels no triumph, only a quiet relief. Justice isn't loud, he thinks. It doesn't roar, it restores. In her apartment that evening, Naomi gets a call from Richard. His voice is calm. She signed the agreement. Naomi closes her eyes. Then maybe she's finally learning. Richard nods on the other end. You gave her something most people wouldn't. Another chance. I didn't do it for her, Naomi says softly. I did it for everyone who'll sit on another plane tomorrow and wonder if they'll be treated like they belong there. There's a pause. Then Richard says, You've done more for this company in a week than I did in 10 years. Naomi smiles faintly. Maybe that's what real flight looks like, lifting people up, not pushing them down. Outside her window, the night sky glows faintly with the lights of departing planes. One rises into the darkness, leaving a silver trail behind it. And somewhere inside that endless sky, justice continues its quiet climb. 3 weeks after Flight 482, the world still can't stop talking about it. Television panels dissect every frame, headlines keep evolving. Airline reform in action, Naomi Carter's quiet revolution, from scandal to system change. And yet, despite all the attention, there's one thing the public hasn't seen. Chloe Reynolds. Until now, a sleek studio in downtown Atlanta glows under warm lights. The morning show host rehearses her opening line while producers adjust cameras. Behind the scenes, PR consultants whisper final instructions. At the far end of the set, Chloe sits stiffly in a gray chair, hands folded in her lap. Her hair is shorter now, her uniform gone, replaced by a simple navy blouse. She looks less like the woman from the viral video and more like someone caught between regret and survival. In the corner, Olivia watches quietly, arms crossed. Richard stands beside her, expression unreadable. This interview wasn't his idea. It was Naomi's. She said silence won't teach anyone, Olivia reminds him. Richard nods. She's right, but it's risky. The producer counts down. 3, 2, 1. The host smiles at the camera. Good morning, America. Today we bring you an exclusive. Former SkyConnect flight attendant Chloe Reynolds speaks publicly for the first time since the incident that shocked the world. The camera pans to Chloe. For a moment she freezes, like a person standing at the edge of a cliff, deciding whether to jump. Then she exhales and begins. I used to think control was the same thing as professionalism, she says softly, that keeping passengers in line made me good at my job. I told myself I was firm, not cruel, but that's the lie I lived with for 12 years. The host leans forward gently. What do you want people to understand about that day? Chloe swallows hard. That I was wrong. I can sit here and tell you I was tired or stressed or under pressure, but the truth is, I let prejudice speak for me. I didn't see a mother trying her best. I saw what my own bias wanted to see, someone to control. And I hurt her because of it. The studio falls silent. Even the camera operators hesitate to move. Chloe continues, voice trembling. I've watched that video hundreds of times. Every time I see it, I wish I could take back that moment. But wishing doesn't change what I did, so I'm not here to ask for forgiveness. I'm here to say to Ms. Carter and to anyone who's ever been treated like they don't belong that I'm sorry and I'm trying to learn how to be better. The host nods, visibly moved. You recently signed something called the Carter Initiative Partnership Agreement. What does that mean? Chloe glances at Richard in the corner, then back to the camera. It means I've agreed to work with the same program built in the wake of my mistake. I'll talk to new flight attendants, tell them what happens when you stop seeing people as people. I'll tell them about the sound of a baby crying that I turned into an excuse to feel powerful. and I'll tell them that power without empathy destroys everything." Her eyes glisten. Naomi Carter gave me this chance. She didn't have to. But she said change doesn't happen from punishment, it happens from participation. So that's what I'm doing. Participating. When the cameras cut, the studio remains quiet. The host thanks her softly. PR handlers usher Chloe away, but she pauses before leaving, glancing toward Richard. "You think it made a difference?" He studies her for a moment. "You didn't justify. You didn't blame. That's more honesty than most people ever show." A small nod, then she's gone. Her figure disappearing down the hallway, smaller with each step but lighter somehow. Across the city, Naomi watches the interview from her living room. Ava crawls across the carpet, babbling happily, oblivious to the gravity of the screen. Naomi sits cross-legged, the bracelet on her wrist catching the light as she turns up the volume. She listens closely, every pause, every apology. When the camera shows Chloe's tearful face, Naomi doesn't feel triumph. She feels something more complex, deeper, closure. Peter calls a few minutes later. "Did you see it?" "Yes," Naomi says softly. "Think she meant it?" Naomi thinks about the tremor in Chloe's hands, the crack in her voice when she said I was wrong. "Yeah," she answers. "I think she finally saw what she did." "Then it's over?" Peter asks. Naomi glances at Ava, who laughs as she topples over a stack of toy blocks. "No," she says. "It's just beginning." Peter chuckles. "You sound like a leader." "I'm just a mom who got tired of being invisible," she says. After the call, Naomi turns off the TV and looks out the window. The city feels calmer now. On the street below, a new SkyConnect billboard glows against the afternoon light. Every passenger, every story. Beneath the slogan, a small inscription reads, "The Carter Initiative." She can't help but smile. Her phone buzzes again, this time a text from Richard. "Richard, you handled all of this with more grace than most people could manage. The world is changing because you refuse to stay quiet." Naomi, "The world changed because someone listened." A few seconds later, another message appears. Richard, "Then let's keep listening. The board approved funding for 3 more empathy centers. First one opens next month. I want you there to cut the ribbon." Naomi types back, "Naomi, I'll be there, but only if you promise one thing." Richard, "What's that?" Naomi, "No podiums, no speeches, just people talking to people." Richard, "Deal." She laughs quietly, setting her phone down. Ava climbs into her lap, pressing a tiny hand against her cheek, the same one that had once carried the mark of a slap. Now the only thing she feels is warmth. Outside, the afternoon sun filters through the clouds, lighting up the horizon. On the tarmac of Hartsfield Airport, a SkyConnect jet lifts into the sky, its engines roaring softly, its tail shimmering gold with the new company motto. At headquarters, Richard stands by his window watching that same plane ascend. Olivia joins him, a faint smile on her face. "The ratings for the interview are through the roof," she says. "People are calling it the most honest apology they've ever seen." "Honesty isn't entertainment," Richard replies. "It's medicine, and maybe the world's finally ready to take it." Olivia nods. "And Naomi? She's doing what leaders do," Richard says quietly. "She's teaching us how to move forward." Outside, the jet disappears into the clouds, leaving only sunlight and silence in its wake. Justice has already been served. What remains now is healing, and for the first time since Flight 482, everyone involved is finally learning how to breathe again. The interview breaks the internet. Within hours, clips of Chloe's trembling voice and Naomi's calm responses flood every major platform. Hashtags multiply. #Carter Initiative, #Empathy Takes Flight, #Chloe Speaks. News anchors praise the unprecedented transparency. Commentators debate whether redemption can exist in the age of viral outrage. But among the noise, one truth emerges loud and clear. Something about this story feels different. For once, justice didn't end with punishment. It evolved into transformation. At SkyConnect headquarters, the communications floor hums like a beehive. Screens display graphs and trending metrics in real time. Olivia stands beside the main dashboard, scanning numbers as they spike upward. "We've tripled our engagement in 24 hours, she says, her tone mixed with relief and disbelief. "Public trust's at 80%. That's higher than pre-incident levels." Across the room, Richard nods but doesn't smile. "Trust isn't a number," he says. "It's a responsibility." Let's make sure we earn it every day from now on. He walks toward the glass wall overlooking the city. From here, he can see the airport in the distance, planes taking off one after another. For years, he's watched them as symbols of profit and growth. Now they mean something else: connection, empathy, humanity. Olivia joins him, holding a fresh report. We've received a flood of emails from passengers, some thanking us, some sharing their own stories. One woman said she cried when she saw Chloe's apology. She said she'd been ignored on flights for years, and this felt like being seen. Richard's voice softens. That's the point, isn't it? Being seen. Downstairs, in a newly converted meeting room, Naomi Carter's first official empathy workshop is about to begin. The space is minimalist. No podiums, no corporate banners, just chairs arranged in a circle. A whiteboard stands in the corner with 3 words written in blue marker. Listen, reflect, repair. Naomi adjusts Ava's photo on the table beside her seat. As employees file in, attendants, pilots, even maintenance staff, she feels the weight of what's about to begin. This isn't a lecture. It's a conversation. A young attendant sits across from her, nervous. "Ms. Carter," she says quietly, "I just wanted to say, I saw the video. What happened to you? It made me rethink how I treat people. I didn't realize how often I judge without meaning to." Naomi smiles gently. "That's why we're here. Not to feel guilty, but to learn what awareness looks like." As more people take their seats, she begins. "I'm not a corporate trainer," she says. "I'm a passenger who had a bad day that turned into something much bigger. I can't teach you policy, but I can tell you what it feels like when the world decides you don't deserve kindness." The room is silent. Every word lands. "I don't need apologies," she continues softly. "I just need to know that when a mother boards a plane tomorrow with a crying baby, someone will see her and say, 'You're doing fine.' That's all empathy is. A choice to see the person, not the problem." A senior pilot raises his hand. "What do you say to people who think you're being too forgiving? That Chloe didn't deserve this chance?" Naomi thinks for a moment. "Forgiveness isn't about what she deserves," she says. "It's about what the world deserves. Less anger, more understanding. If I let bitterness win, then she's not the only one who loses." Murmurs of agreement ripple around the room. Some employees jot notes. Others just listen, eyes heavy with emotion. Halfway through the session, Richard quietly steps in and stands at the back. He doesn't interrupt. He just watches. Naomi moves through the room with calm authority, her presence magnetic yet gentle. He realizes that she's doing what he never could, turning pain into progress without losing grace. When the workshop ends, people stay behind. They shake her hand, some hug her, others thank her quietly. Naomi smiles through it all, but when the room finally empties, she lets out a long, tired breath. "You did good," Richard says from behind her. Naomi turns, surprised. "You were here? Wouldn't have missed it," he says, stepping closer. "You have a gift, Naomi. You make people want to be better without shaming them." She smiles faintly. "I just speak the truth. It's easier than pretending." He nods. "How's Ava?" "Growing too fast," Naomi says, laughing softly. "She clapped during the interview yesterday. I think she liked the sound of her mother's name on TV." Richard chuckles. "She's got good taste." They stand in companionable silence for a moment. Then Naomi says, "You know, I used to think justice meant seeing the person who hurt you get what they deserve. But now I realize, sometimes justice looks like seeing that person finally understand what they did." Richard looks at her with quiet admiration. "And sometimes," he says, "justice looks like a woman turning pain into a movement." Before Naomi can respond, Olivia bursts in, holding her tablet. "You need to see this," she says breathlessly. "CNN just announced it. Congress wants to meet with you both. They're drafting new guidelines for airline passenger treatment, calling it the Carter Standard." Naomi's eyes widen. "The what?" "The Carter Standard," Olivia repeats. "They want you to testify about your experience and the reforms you've helped create." Richard smiles slowly. "Looks like you've just changed more than a company, Naomi. You've changed an industry." Naomi shakes her head, still processing. "I didn't plan any of this." "Exactly," Richard says. "That's why it worked." Later that evening, as the city glows under sunset, Naomi walks along the edge of Centennial Park. Ava's stroller rolls beside her. She watches planes arc overhead, their silver bodies catching the orange light. For the first time, they don't remind her of fear or humiliation. They remind her of possibility. She pulls out her phone and opens a message from Richard. Richard, Congress confirmed your invite. The hearing's in D.C. next month. You ready to take this story higher? Naomi smiles as she types back. Naomi, I already did, but sure, let's keep flying. She looks up again, following the trail of a departing plane until it disappears into the horizon. Behind her, a billboard glows faintly in the dusk. Empathy takes flight, the Carter Standard. And as the city lights flicker to life, Naomi Carter finally understands what she's built. Not fame, not revenge, but a legacy. A legacy born from pain, carried by courage, and lifted by hope. The morning air in Washington, D.C. hums with tension and history. The Capitol dome glows in soft light, marble gleaming against a silver sky. Crowds gather beyond the gates, journalists swarm the steps, and inside the House Transportation Committee room, cameras click like distant thunder. At the center of it all, Naomi Carter sits at the witness table. She wears a plain navy suit, no jewelry except the silver bracelet Richard gave her. Her hair is neatly tied back, her eyes calm but focused. In front of her rests a stack of papers she doesn't intend to read. She's not here to perform. She's here to speak. Behind her, Richard Grant sits quietly, hands folded, expression unreadable. Olivia sits beside him, glancing at her notes. Around them, the room fills with senators, policy advisors, and corporate lobbyists. The placard in front of Naomi reads, Naomi Carter, Passenger Advocate, the Carter Initiative. The chairwoman clears her throat. Ms. Carter, we want to thank you for coming. You've become the face of a global conversation about empathy, accountability, and how ordinary people are treated in extraordinary circumstances. We'd like to hear, in your own words, what happened and what you believe needs to change. Naomi takes a slow breath. The microphones amplify even that quiet sound. Thank you, Madam Chair, she begins. Her voice carries steady, low, unshaken. What happened to me on Flight 482 shouldn't have been possible in a civilized world, but it happened because silence allowed it. The room goes still. She continues. That day, I wasn't a passenger. I was a problem, a noise, a stereotype someone needed to control. I was holding my baby when a flight attendant decided I didn't deserve patience, only power. And when her hand struck my face, I realized something I'll never forget. The systems meant to protect people often protect pride instead. Whispers stir in the back, but Naomi presses on. The easy thing would have been to let it fade, to take a settlement, to move on quietly. But I didn't, because I knew if I did, another mother somewhere would feel that same sting. Her gaze sweeps the room, so I stayed loud. I demanded change, and to my surprise, people listened. Richard watches her with a quiet sense of awe. Every word is deliberate, measured, but it cuts through the air like truth always does. Naomi sets her papers aside. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here because justice is supposed to mean more than headlines. It should mean prevention. The Carter Standard isn't about making airlines afraid of mistakes. It's about reminding them that passengers are human beings before they're customers. She pauses, glancing toward the senators. That means clear accountability. It means training that goes beyond procedure and touches humanity. It means reporting systems where complaints don't disappear into inboxes. And it means laws that protect decency as fiercely as they protect revenue. The chairwoman nods slowly, her expression thoughtful. Ms. Carter, if I may, what would you say to those who argue that what happened to you was an isolated incident, not a systemic failure? Naomi meets her gaze. I'd say that isolation is the story power tells to avoid reflection. Every injustice starts as an incident until someone connects the dots. A low murmur of approval ripples through the audience. Even some senators exchange glances. Naomi continues, voice softer now. I'm not here to destroy the airline industry. I'm here to remind it what it was supposed to be, about connection, not control. Flight should lift people, not diminish them. My hope is that the Carter Standard will ensure no passenger ever wonders if their skin color, language, or background determines how gently they're treated. When she finishes, the silence is complete. Not the awkward kind, but the kind that comes when a room full of people realize they're witnessing something historic. The chairwoman leans forward. Thank you, Ms. Carter. That was powerful. Applause rises, not the staged, polite kind, but the real, hesitant, human kind that grows until it fills the chamber. Reporters scribble furiously. Cameras flash. Richard closes his eyes for a moment, letting the sound wash over him. When the session breaks, reporters swarm outside the chamber doors. Microphones stretch toward Naomi as she steps into the marble hallway. Questions fly. Do you think Congress will pass the Carter Standard? Has SkyConnect truly changed? Will you meet the president? Naomi raises a hand. One step at a time, she says. Real change doesn't come from meetings. It comes from people who decide to act differently tomorrow than they did yesterday. Outside, the sunlight catches on the Capitol steps as she exits. The crowd waiting outside bursts into applause. Some hold signs. Fly with dignity. Thank you, Naomi. Olivia hurries to her side. You did it, she says, breathless. Every network's streaming your speech live. It's trending worldwide. Naomi smiles faintly. Good, now maybe they'll talk about something that actually matters. Richard joins them, slipping his phone into his pocket. You were extraordinary, he says quietly. Even Congress looked humbled. Naomi laughs softly. They're just people, Richard, like the rest of us. He nods. People who needed to be reminded. They walk down the steps together, cameras flashing around them. At the bottom, a young girl, maybe 13, waits behind the barricade. She's holding a small sign that says, I want to fly like Naomi. Naomi kneels beside her. Hi there, she says gently. The girl beams. I saw your video. My mom's a flight attendant. She said she cried when she heard you speak. Naomi smiles. Tell your mom I said thank you. And you, keep flying, okay? However you can. The girl nods eagerly. When Naomi stands again, Richard watches her with quiet admiration. You know, he says, I've spent my life building things, companies, programs, profits, but you've built something no one can buy. Naomi looks at him curious. What's that? Faith, he says simply. She smiles, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. Then let's make sure we keep earning it. They step into the waiting car. The city glides past, the monuments, the flags, the history carved in stone. Naomi watches through the window as a plane cuts across the distant sky, sunlight glinting off its wings. She thinks about the journey, from humiliation to healing, from silence to standing before Congress. It still doesn't feel real, but as she looks down at Ava's tiny hand resting in hers, she realizes it doesn't have to. Change is real enough. And for the first time in her life, Naomi Carter knows she's not just part of a story, she's the start of one. 1 year after Flight 482, SkyConnect has become something no one believed possible. A company synonymous with empathy. Airport terminals across the country display banners that read, The Carter Standard, where every passenger matters. Travelers pause to take photos with them, unaware that the woman whose name reshaped aviation still prefers to fly quietly, unnoticed. Naomi Carter stands at Gate 17 in Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, rocking Ava gently in her stroller. The child is bigger now, curious eyes, wild curls, a laugh that fills the room. Naomi adjusts her small backpack and smiles as a flight attendant approaches her. Ms. Carter? The woman asks, eyes wide with recognition. It's really you. I just wanted to say thank you. I joined SkyConnect because of you. They taught us empathy training and orientation, and honestly, it changed the way I see people. Naomi smiles. That's good to hear. Just keep seeing them as people. That's all it takes. The attendant nods. Safe travels, Ms. Carter. As she walks away, Naomi looks around the gate area. The atmosphere is calm, almost peaceful. A mother across the room is soothing her fussy toddler, and instead of glares, she gets helping hands. A stranger picks up the toy her child dropped. Another offers her a seat. Naomi feels her chest tighten with quiet pride. We did it, baby, she whispers to Ava. We really did. Her phone buzzes with a message from Richard. Richard, just landed in New York. You're still coming to the gala tonight, right? Naomi, I'll be there. Don't start without me. Richard, wouldn't dream of it. That evening, the SkyConnect annual leadership gala unfolds in a vast ballroom shimmering with golden light. Executives, pilots, and attendants mingle beneath a banner reading, 1 year of the Carter Standard. The event isn't about profits, it's about people. The proceeds will fund empathy scholarships for underprivileged youth pursuing aviation careers. Richard Grant stands near the stage, wearing his usual tailored simplicity. His silver hair catches the light as he greets guests with quiet warmth. The transformation in him is as visible as it is internal. The man who once measured success in numbers now measures it in change. When Naomi arrives, the room seems to brighten. She's not in a designer gown, just a simple white dress, elegant in its ease. The moment she steps inside, the crowd turns, applause rising like a wave. Richard smiles, meeting her halfway. "You're late," he teases softly. She laughs. "For once I enjoyed being just another passenger." "Good," he says. "That's the world we wanted." He leads her to the stage, where a microphone waits. Olivia, standing to the side, gives Naomi a small nod of encouragement. Naomi hesitates for a moment, then steps forward. The applause fades. "A year ago," she begins, "I was just a mother trying to get home. I didn't expect the world to know my name, or to carry my story this far. But if this year has taught me anything, it's that pain can plant seeds you never meant to grow." She pauses, glancing around the room. "I've seen flight attendants cry during training because they realized how much pressure they've been carrying. I've seen passengers write letters saying they felt heard for the first time. I've even seen former critics admit that empathy isn't weakness, it's strength." Her eyes find Richard in the crowd. None of this happened because of one person. It happened because people listened. A quiet murmur of agreement ripples through the hall. Naomi continues, voice steady. "When the Carter Standard became law last fall, it wasn't just a victory for passengers, it was a promise that respect won't be optional, that no one should have to earn dignity." She exhales, her voice softening. "If my daughter ever asks what this was all for, I'll tell her it wasn't about revenge or fame. It was about teaching the world that kindness shouldn't be rare." The applause that follows is thunderous, but it's not the sound that moves her. It's the faces. Crew members, executives, families, some tearful, some smiling, all standing together. Richard joins her on stage. He takes the microphone briefly. "Naomi Carter reminded this company and me that leadership without compassion is just management, and tonight we honor not a brand, but a belief." He gestures toward her. "To Naomi, to Ava, and to every voice that refused to stay silent, you've changed not just a company, but a culture." The crowd rises again, clapping until it feels like the walls themselves might tremble. Naomi steps closer to Richard, smiling through her tears. "You never liked the spotlight," she says quietly. "Still don't," he replies. "But some stories deserve it." Later that night, after the gala ends, Naomi stands outside on the terrace overlooking the city lights. The air is cool, the moon bright over the skyline. She leans against the railing, taking a deep breath. Richard joins her, 2 glasses of sparkling water in hand. "You did well," he says, handing her one. "So did you," she replies. "Though I think you're starting to enjoy speeches more than you admit." He chuckles. "Don't tell Olivia, she'll book me for another 10. They stand in silence for a while, watching planes blink across the night sky. Finally, Richard says, "Do you ever think about that flight anymore?" "Every day," Naomi admits, "but not with anger. It reminds me how far we've come." He nods. "Chloe's working with our training division full-time now. Her sessions are raw, honest. She doesn't shy away from the truth. People listen." Naomi smiles faintly. "Good. Maybe she's finally flying for the right reasons." They sip their drinks, the city quiet beneath them. "You know," Richard says, "when I first met you, I thought I was helping you. Turns out you were saving me from myself." Naomi looks at him, touched. "You just needed a reason to care again. The company found one." He nods. "And you found your wings." She glances toward the horizon where a plane disappears into the clouds. "We both did." A long silence follows. Peaceful, full. Inside the ballroom, someone begins to play soft piano music. The melody drifts through the open doors, blending with the hum of the city. Naomi closes her eyes for a moment, letting it wash over her. She thinks of the past year, the slap, the fear, the tears, the hearings, the redemption. All of it led to this moment, a new beginning. When she opens her eyes, Richard is still watching the sky. "What now?" she asks. He smiles. "Now we keep flying." Naomi raises her glass. "To empathy," she says softly. Richard lifts his, meeting her gaze. "To justice that learned how to heal." They clink glasses. The sound rings clear, small but certain, like the first note of a song that the world is finally ready to hear. And above them, another SkyConnect jet ascends into the stars, carrying with it the legacy of one woman, one child, and one promise, that kindness once awakened never falls from the sky again.